After leaving Rabbituza with new knowledge in hand, Sunraka steps into the next stage of his Shangri-La frontier adventure. As the legend of his unique monster conquest spreads across the world, new teams, rising rivalries, and hidden agendas begin to surface. With his clan undergoing sudden power shifts and powerful enemies making bold moves, Sunraku is kept busy with another task that is tied to unique monsters. Let's get started. In the next scene, the story shifted to a place filled with small hills and patches of mini forests. There, several players had just finished slaying a massive monster. One of them commented that it had taken long enough, while another asked where the spawn point was. A third replied that it was to the west. From the symbol on one player's armor, it became clear that they were members of the Schwarzwolf clan. He asked what had happened in the end with Siger Zero. A female member replied that she did not know. Siger Zero had been kind of their main offensive force, and she doubted Siger 100 would easily let him go. Another woman added that they could not afford such a massive loss with the new land approaching. Another player mentioned a rumor he had heard, that Siger 100 had only permitted Siger Zero to leave if he provided them with 400 Ascension Horn antlers. Someone asked if those were the deer with 3 antlers, and another confirmed it, explaining that those were ingredients for the highest tier potions. The encounter rate for those deer was already extremely rare, and with everyone hunting them in preparation for the new land, competition is intense. Someone pointed out that you could hunt for half a day and still fail to find even 20. Another agreed, adding that their boss Siger 100 wanted 400 from Siger Zero alone. That was in character for their boss, she said, before being cut off by another who mentioned he had heard that the SF Zoo clan had figured out an efficient way to spawn those 3-antlered deer. Someone then asked if wasn't it strange to restrain someone who wanted to leave like that. Another replied that the backstory between Siger 100 and Siger Zero was complicated, and the Wolf Gang was involved too. Another agreed, saying that was the clan who took down unique monsters one after another. Someone questioned why their leader had wanted an alliance with such a crazy clan. Another explained that it was because Siger 100 wanted Lycagon intel, and what else would he think? In the end, though, all they had gotten out of it was what Wolfgang had given them at the time of the alliance's formation. Another added that Wolfgang surely had not yet played all their cards. It had become a stalemate, and it was exactly then that Siger Zero had managed to discover and defeat a unique monster alongside Wolfgang. That made clear why the Wolfgang wanted to recruit their top damage dealer. One agreed, saying that as before the Wolfgang had to tell them any of their info. A woman expressed shock that Wolfgang had gotten Siger Zero under their thumb. A then man asked who knew for sure. Another man said he had heard that Wolfgang had recruited Kyogoku, a woman from that old player-killer clan. One of the listeners was surprised, saying he had heard Kyogoku had left Ashura Kai, and wasn't she still on a full-on PK build? Because of that, his trust in Wolfgang had dropped even further. Another suggested they should extract whatever intel they could from Wolfgang and call off the alliance entirely. Someone asked if wasn't that the classic player-killer way. Another member admitted there was nothing new in any of this, but said their cohesion as a clan had already been breaking down, made worse by Siger Zero's departure. At that moment, someone arrived at the rocky area above them, and it was none other than Kyogoku. The clan members were stunned to see her. Because of their emblem, she asked if they were part of Schwarzwolf. Shocked, they watched as Kyogoku displayed the emblem Pencilgon had crafted for them, worn on the left side of her chest. That, she said, was the new emblem for Wolfgang. She explained that Pencilgon had forced her to wear it, even though she did not like it, since it did not match her style or kimono. Was it not too flashy, she added, like the Black Wolf motif and all. Meanwhile, the Schwarzwolf members were not welcoming. They were furious to learn she had truly joined Wolfgang. They pointed out that some of their members had even been killed by Kyogoku in the past. Kyogoku replied, "Too bad, since they were all just wimps, and she did not even know their names." In which case, she said, she was leaving, and turned to go, but one member told her to wait. Forget forging alliances with someone who bore a PK skull mark. He said they should settle the score right there. Another member urged them not to, warning that things were volatile enough as they were, but the one who had challenged her refused to back down, saying that allying with a player killer was far more of a problem. Kyogoku adjusted her scarf and pointed out that, just to be sure, they had drawn their weapons first. As she said it, she drew her blade. The man who had challenged her struck first, trying to slash in half Kyogoku's body, but Kyogoku right above him, circling behind him, and cut him down with a thunder and lightning instant kill blade. As she fell, the stunned expressions of the Schwarz-Wolf members made it clear they had not expected her to one-hit their comrade. Kyogoku laughed, telling them that wimps or not, they are still nothing like those boring-ass NPCs. That, she said, was exactly why she would never abandon her player-killing habit. And with that, she slaughtered the Schwarz-Wolf members with ease. Later, we learned that this incident had actually already passed, and it was being retold from Kyogoku's perspective. She cheerfully recounted the story to Sunraku and Pencilgon. Pencilgon noted that now they had made complete enemies of Schwarz-Wolf. Sunraku, meanwhile, could not believe how short Kyogoku's patience had been, asking what kind of rabid dog she is. Pencilgon explained that, according to data brokers, Schwarz-Wolf had been divided to those who wanted to maintain peace and information sharing about unique monsters, while others wanted to squeeze everything they could out of Wolfgang in the name of sharing the intel to the broader player community. Hardliners would surely push back hard after this. Kyogoku said she had just gotten excited and killed the Schwarz-Wolf members, and when they sent more troops to avenge them, she killed those too for all their gear and items. Sunraku remarked that this was the exact mindset of a player killer, calling it freaky. Pencilgon admitted she had not asked for this, saying it was way too much. Sunraku stared at her, and she asked him what was up. He asked if it would just be the three of them meeting that day, or what. Pencilgon replied that it was not Akane's business, whom she called Aki, nor that of the Rust-Mordo combo, but Katsuo would also be coming to Levantar, and he ought to be there soon. She guesses he was being dragged back by real life, and that it's been tough to shake off for him. Sunraku wondered about what she meant by shake off. Kyogoku seemed surprised while mentioning Katsuo's name. And just then, Katsuo himself arrived, announcing his presence. "Speak of the devil," said Sunraku, remarking that it was good to see Katsuo again. Katsuo replied that it had taken him a long time to finally reach Levantar. Kyogoku sniffed him curiously, then asked if he really was Katsuo. Katsuo asked in turn if this was their battle maniac, while Kyogoku replied that she could smell the PvP scent on him. But somehow, she was not interested, which left Katsuo stunned. Pencilgon teased that Kyogoku probably just preferred Sunraku more. Katsuo shouted that he did not get what was going on, but he was not about to lose to Sunraku, especially since he just got new gear. Sunraku replied that he wanted Katsuo to take his place anyway, then asked how long it had taken him to arrive. Was Katsuo that busy in real life? Katsuo blamed Sunraku for 40% of the delay, which left Sunraku confused. Katsuo explained that Sylvia had started playing SLF, which shocked Sunraku. He had thought SLF was still Japan only. Pencilgon then revealed that Sylvia had apparently returned to Japan and was now living next to Katsuo's house. Both Sunraku and Pencilgon teased Katsuo, saying that was why he had been so busy, because he had been spending time with Sylvia. Annoyed, Katsuo shot back that they knew nothing about what he was going through. Kyogoku asked what it was all about, which disrupted the banter as all three cursed at once. Katsuo explained it was just about their friend from another game, while Pencilgon returned the conversation to their original topic. Katsuo admitted that he only knew the basic rundown so far, so Sunraku explained that thanks to Kyotimate, Schwarz-Wolf was now their enemy. That was all Katsuo needed to know, he said. Katsuo refused to believe that that was all, so Pencilgon said she would run through things in more detail. At present, their Wolfgang clan faced three major issues. First, as part of their alliance, they had agreed to share exclusive unique monster intel, but they pretty much half ignored that. They had avoided sharing because if they did, they would risk losing their inherent advantage as a clan. The second issue was the unique monster strife, since their relationship with Schwarz-Wolf had begun to fall apart, thanks in no small part to Siger0 requesting a transfer to Wolfgang. Sunraku admitted that might have been partly his fault. Pencilgon sarcastically said what a surprise, and added that Sunraku had grown enough to pick that up himself. Katsuo commented that it was not just a little, but a lot more. Sunraku grew annoyed and told them to line up so he could bash their heads in order. Pencilgon then grew serious again, saying that of course they owed Siger Zero a debt for all the unique monster intel she had given them. Anyway, the third issue was that Kyogoku had killed half of Schwarzwolf, whom she mockingly called a rabid chihuahua. "Way to live up to your reputation," said Katsuo. He then asked if Schwarzwolf was large clan, and that Kyogoku had just spat on them, showing bravery. Kyogoku humbly replied that it was not like that. Sunraku chimed in, asking if wasn't it Schwarzwolf's fault anyway, since they had challenged a player killer, and Katsuo agreed. Pencilgon concluded that when you put it all together, it meant serious cracks in their relationship with Schwarzwolf, to the point they were practically enemies now. Kyogoku laughed awkwardly, saying it would probably drive Pencilgon mad, while Sunraku retorted that Kyogoku should not be the one saying that. Then Katsuo asked why Pencilgon had called him to SLF. Pencilgon answered that since they would be fighting Schwarzwolf, they needed to shore up their numbers. Sunraku and Kyogoku went quiet, while Katsuo asked if she was going to put out an open invite. Pencilgon replied that things were changing quickly, and that there was a simpler way to gain the numerical advantage they needed. She then brought out the capture eyeball, leaving Katsuo confused. At that, Sunraku realized what was about to happen. Pencilgon explained that Sunraku had used it to create a certain video recording, which would serve as the perfect bait to drag the library clan into the conflict. In the next scene, we arrive at the library clan's base. The Wolf Gang has come, and the professor and his assistant are stunned, while watching the footage Sunraku recorded with the capture eyeball. The professor asks what it is, and whether it is from the Divinity era. In the middle of their viewing, Pencilgon stops the recording and says that is enough for now, which surprises the professor. Pencilgon adds that someone from their clan, namely Sunraku, shot it, and that the professor can see more after they talk a bit. She prefers a one-on-one conversation, which surprises the professor's companions. One female companion looks worried, while the professor falls into thought. Katsuo quietly asks Pencilgon if she thinks the professor will bite, because none of this makes sense to him. Sunraku says it might not mean much to them, but for lore freaks, it is like finding the Holy Grail. He is sure a lore clan like the professor's is no exception, and he asks if he is right. The professor finally speaks. He says that when the Wolf Gang first reached out, he was not at all sure what the topic would be. He did not expect it. He agreed to talk with the Wolf Gang about it. Pencilgon is pleased and tells the professor she is glad he agreed so quickly. As she speaks, the professor stands and says that since Pencilgon wants just the two of them, they should go to another room, which he points out to her. He will set up a fully soundproof room for this occasion. Pencilgon stands as well, thanks him, and says she appreciates the gesture. She also tells her companions to wait for her in that room. But the professor says the person he wants to negotiate with is not her. He wants to speak with Sunraku. Sunraku and Pencilgon are both shocked, and the professor asks whether Sunraku was the one who obtained the video. It is only fair that the person in the scene is the one he talks to. That is his condition. The Wolf Gang agrees, and the professor enters a room filled with books. He apologizes to Sunraku for how cramped it is, since this is his personal study. Sunraku says it is fine, but in his head he is panicking a little because he knows nothing about negotiation, and he is about to talk to the man who runs the clan that has outwitted every other clan in information warfare. He thinks the old freak with the magic girl avatar aimed for this from the very start. While he is thinking, the professor asks if they should begin. Meanwhile, outside, Katsuo looks displeased. The professor has outmaneuvered them by targeting Sunraku, he says. Kyogoku then says they probably should have considered that possibility when they accepted the professor's invitation. Pencilgon says it is not as if she did not see this coming. In fact, she gave Sunraku some advice. Besides, when dealing with the professor, whom she calls a crafty old geezer, she thinks Sunraku will work better than she ever would. We return to the conversation between the professor and Sunraku. The professor begins by thanking Sunraku again for giving him a chance to talk. Sunraku replies that he is a little hesitant after the pile of fan letters the professor sent him. The professor laughs, admits he should apologize for that, and says the admins even warned him. Sunraku thinks the professor is a pro at getting people to give him information, so he wonders what the professor will try on him. Then the professor says it is time to get down to business. He already knows what the Wolf Gang wants from them at the moment, so he asks if it is about Schwarzwolf. Sunraku is surprised to hear that, and the professor adds that from their standpoint, it would be better if Schwarz-Wolf released all the information the Wolf Gang is trying to monopolize. What is more, information has a fluid value. Even if the Wolf Gang zips their mouths shut, they do not know whether someone else will discover exactly the same thing, and when they do, Wolfgang's information is not worth anything anymore. Sunraku cuts him off and says he understands that this stuff has an expiration date. As he says it, he thinks that just as he has heard, the professor can really talk. A schemer at his core who moves people's minds with words alone, just like Pencilgon. He knows someone at his level isn't likely to win a negotiation with him, so he needs to seize the initiative before anything else. But what tools does he have? He then asks himself. Suddenly he blurts out, first and second plan, Behemoth, Leviathan, Ziz, Delta Machines, Kaziria, the Jeweler, Divine Craftsman, the bonus unique scenario Vorpal Epic. If the Wolf Gang gets bullied by Schwarz-Wolf, they might just rage quit and take the info with them. The professor is about to repeat that someone would learn that info sooner or later, but Sunraku interrupts him and tells him that, as the professor himself put it, all of it could be discovered by others. The professor can wait for that opportunity to arrive, but he can only wait because he does not know what is coming. Or rather, if he does not know what is coming, he does not even realize he is waiting. That is not the case here, because now that he has heard the keywords, his mind is already beginning to infer connections, and is that not what he does? Sunraku is right. As shown by the professor's reaction, the man is already thinking. Sunraku adds that this is what information collectors in lore-oriented clans do. They cannot help imagining how things connect. Once they start, they cannot stop. They start itching to learn the truth as soon as possible. Then Sunraku asks the professor if he is willing to wait now, because the next chance might not come for 6 months or 12. The professor says that is true, and the info they had before Sunraku started playing SLF was not much different from what is on the net. As he says it, he wonders whether Sunraku is wasting time with this pitch. Maybe he is taking cues from Pencilgon. Sunraku clearly knows how lore fans' minds work, so perhaps he underestimated Sunraku a bit, and it is obvious the Wolf Gang is willing to play hardball in pursuit of their own goals, but he will not let them act like the boss either. He adds that he is not doubting Sunraku, but there is a non-zero chance Sunraku just rattled off random words. Sunraku panics and realizes it is too late to walk along that thin tightrope. The professor thinks he will not let Sunraku gain the upper hand either, and tells him that if he wants to deal with the library clan, they need the data they want. Right now he is interested in is Katarnid's Tome of Truth, but before he finishes, Sunraku blurts out that Katarnid of the Abyss can be defeated multiple times. The professor freezes, shocked that Katarnid can be fought again. Sunraku repeats that you can fight Katarnid multiple times, and he says that is exclusive info for the professor. Only he and the Wolf Gang know it. The professor asks why Sunraku is handing them such a bombshell out of the blue. Sunraku answers that is exactly what the professor asked for, and asks for his answer in return. Would a top-tier lore clan like his really do nothing with that info? Because if malicious rumors spread that the library clan are data thieves, fewer sources would be willing to sell them information. Trust in them would drop, along with their power. They would catch less intel, and knowing how the professor talks about the right way to do things, that would not do. Not for the professor, and not for anyone else. The professor falls silent for a moment, then laughs in Sunraku's face. He says he did not expect Sunraku to go that far, so he apologizes for being a bit too mean earlier. Sunraku is clueless, so the professor explains that, truth be told, the library clan was willing to accept the Wolf Gang's conditions from the start, or some portion of them anyway. Sunraku is shocked to hear it, and the professor adds that one must consider they do not expect much from Schwarz-Wolf or from Siger 100 herself, beyond advancing the main story. On the other hand, the Wolf Gang has a track record of defeating unique monsters, so within the library clan, they have been discussing how to keep the Wolf Gang motivated. Sunraku asks if the professor really runs things that way, calling it greedy and almost self-serving. The professor replies that you cannot run a top-level clan on trust alone, and that is the tricky part. Even so, Sunraku fascinates him, and he thinks he sees why Sunraku piqued his interest. As he says this, Sunraku realizes the professor is faking not only his age and gender, The professor adds that he is glad he spoke with Sunraku, because Sunraku was the one he wanted to talk to today. Sunraku asks if they have a deal, but the professor says that before that, he has something else to say. He hopes to speak with Sunraku personally. Sunraku asks for what, and the professor says Sunraku must know many players are going to the new land. Sunraku asks if that is the new area opened in the latest update. The professor answers that the library clan has, of course, already dispatched several people to the new land and assigned them to collect information. The people they sent are reporting very interesting things. He also says he cannot give Sunraku specifics yet, but if Sunraku is interested in contributing to their studies on a personal basis, they might be willing to give him some information in return. Sunraku thinks about that on a personal basis. The professor explains that the library clan feels little urgency about who is first to discover each piece of info. They do not care about rewards or the glory granted by unique scenarios, as they only seek information. Sunraku asks if the professor wants an answer right now, and the professor says he can answer later, as long as he keeps the offer secret. That, and he cannot make a firm promise yet, but again, on a personal level, he can provide information about the savage god serpent. Sunraku is shocked to hear that, and the professor says Sunraku might have convinced him to say a bit too much, but in any case, he should accept it as an apology for earlier. Sunraku is still thinking about the god serpent, since there is no such snake among the 7 colossi. He says it sounds really important, but how will they keep it on ice for now? It will be their secret for the time being, he adds. Fine by me, says the professor, and he hopes to hear good news from Sunraku soon. For now, he knows they got sidetracked, and he holds out his hand. Sunraku remembers their deal and hands the professor the capture eyeball. As it happens, the professor says that as far as Schwarzwolf is concerned, they have a deal. Naturally, Sunraku immediately reports what he learned to his clanmates. Pencilgon is overjoyed, Katsuo is stunned and calls Sunraku a monster, and Kyogoku just laughs at them. In the next scene, we shift first to real life, to Sunraku's room where we see him still playing in his VR gaming chair. According to him, yesterday he had already cleared the surprise event, where he negotiated one-on-one with the not-so-girly leader of the library clan. After that, he said he returned to Rabbituza to inform Visash that he had completed the fetch quest assigned to him. However, Emul told him that Visash was not there. Surprised, he asked Emul what he meant by old man Visash not being around. Emul answered that her father had told her he went out to meet a friend and had been gone since yesterday. Sunraku then asked if they had just missed each other, since he had just found the Delta stuff. He said he was excited to see what kind of outcome that event would bring. He had even hurried home from school and everything. Once again, Emul asked him what that school he kept talking about was. However, Sunraku did not answer, since what was on his mind was whether he could kill time by playing another game. Then, he told Emul he was going to sleep again, so he said he would see her again in a few hours. Emul was shocked to hear he was going back to sleep right after waking up. Sunraku explained that while he has the chance, he was going to try out the game that Iwamaki had recommended to him. It was called VR Kendo School Ultimate, which had an endorsement from a man named Fugaku Ryuguin. In the following scene, he logged into the VR world of VR Kendo School Ultimate, where his character was dressed in full kendo gear, looking like a samurai. He faced an opponent dressed in white kendo gear. Their battle began, with the man striking first. He attacked Sunraku with a downward slash, but Sunraku parried it, swinging the man's sword aside. He then countered with a torso strike, defeating the man and clearing the stage with an A rating. Before long, he had reached stage 32, where the difficulty level was AI Teacher. Again, his opponent was an identical twin mannequin, or perhaps just a darker colored version. Sunraku remarked that it was mainly edutainment, so for the most part, the opponents were doll-like clones. He figured the AI was designed to bump up the difficulty a bit as he cleared each stage. However, compared to SLF's AI, this was not up to the task. On top of that, it only had the most bare-bones moveset programmed in, so it had no appeal for fighting at all. Even worse, unlike many crappy games, there were no bugged-out moves you could exploit, nor anything so bad it was funny. After saying that, he cleared the stage again with an A rating. By stage 58, he commented that it seemed like the game's developers cared more about QA and educational stuff. In fact, it oddly had some very high-end features. The game scanned the height and body shape of the player to create the in-game avatar, making the character look exactly like the real person. Of course, that was mostly VR hardware at work. Still, the game left the player feeling empty inside, and as usual, he earned another A rating on every stage he beat. That was what he thought at first, but as he reached the deeper stages, the AI became increasingly difficult for him. At that point, he was finally struck by his opponent, resulting in his defeat. He realized that his amateur kendo could only take him that far. So, he decided to unleash his true strength. As his opponent attacked, he dodged while keeping his eyes on him, then swept his opponent's legs out from under him. The opponent lost balance, and Sunraku seized the opportunity to land a strike on his chest while wide open. Because of that, he received a C rating and was surprised that the technique worked. He remarked that in this game, it turned out you could still win matches even by blatantly ignoring the rules of kendo. Of course, the game graded harshly, but as long as he won, he cleared the stage. He did not care about getting a high score anyway. That was exactly what made his asshole strategy of breaking kendo rules so effective. As he said that, he kicked his opponent in the face. Since the AI followed the rules, as it should in real life, his asshole tactics worked in the game. And because he kicked his opponent in the face, he got a D rating for that stage. Before long, he reached the final stage, with the difficulty set to AI Master. Sunraku realized he had arrived at the final stage of the game, and his body tensed. He felt unwilling to accept that the opponent was rated as a master. He said the boss could call itself whatever it wanted, but his strategy would remain the same. However, the final boss repeatedly pummeled him. At that point, he accepted that this was truly the game's final boss. His simple kicks and sweeps only left him open for counters against the boss. In that case, he decided to use his forbidden technique. First, he kicked the boss, then attempted a slash at the head, which the boss blocked. After that, he slid behind the boss, wrapped his arms around his waist, and delivered a suplex. The boss's body slammed into the ground under Sunraku's move, and he defeated him, receiving a G rating from the game. Even so, he was overjoyed because he had cleared all the stages. He added that the boss would have been pretty tough if fought normally, but the AI stuck strictly to kendo. It could not handle the asshole do style he had used. Jokingly, he told it to try adapting a little. We then learned that the special advisor for this VR package was apparently super famous in the sport. His name was Fugaku Ryuguin, which Sunraku thought was a way too cool name, and his portrait was front and center on the game's box art. Unfortunately, he had already passed away, but in his time, he was an overwhelmingly dominant master. After the end credits rolled, Sunraku unlocked the clear bonuses, Dual Wield Mode and Mode Select, and Online Dual Mode V2. He also entered a code and unlocked the secret difficulty, AI Ultimate Master. He was thrilled because Iwamaki's information was correct and he unlocked the secret boss. The secret boss appeared before him, and he explained that it had a type of tech called Trace AI, where the thought process of a real person could be recreated with scary levels of accuracy. A person was put into a special VR system, run through a sequence of actions in VR space, and their movements and thought patterns were recorded, resulting in AI behavior nearly indistinguishable from the real thing. Then, Sunraku greeted the ultimate master, or rather, Fugaku Ryuguin. The AI inserted into this secret boss was none other than Fugaku Ryuguin himself. Sunraku was shocked to see Fugaku wielding two swords, which made him realize he had unlocked dual wield mode after clearing the game. The long-winded tutorial was finally over, and now it was time to kick off the true battle between Sunraku and Fugaku Ryuguin. Sunraku charged forward, telling Fugaku that he knew he would not last 10 seconds against him in real life. But what about in this game? Fugaku simply stared at him as he said this. Then, Sunraku jumped to Fugaku's side and hurled his sword at him. As the blade flew toward Fugaku, he wondered how Fugaku would react. He saw Fugaku block to his left, so he decided to attack his blind spot and go for his left foot. However, as he swung, Fugaku effortlessly raised his foot. Sunraku was stunned that he had missed and that the secret boss had read his attack. Fugaku then struck him with tremendous force using his sword. Fugaku's speed was not completely unfair like Weathermon's, but with the shortest and most optimized of moves, the Kendo Master smashed him down before he could react. That was the legend of Fugaku Ryuguin. In the next scene, Sunraku returned to the world of SLF, with a mole asking him what was going on, since he was awake again, and in the worst possible mood out of nowhere. Sunraku answered that he was losing his mind, ranting to a mole that he kept fighting that old geezer Fugaku over and over, and the man blocked every single one of his asshole moves. Why? He complained. Did he have to waste his time being mocked by a game he had bought? As he said this, he aggressively shook a mole. Then he asked a mole whether Visash had returned or not, because he needed to advance the SLF story to get his mind off the kendo game. Mole answered in a deflated tone that her father had returned a long time ago, leaving Sunraku in disbelief. Sunraku said he was going to fight Fugaku again later, so they should head to the palace of Rabbituza. However, Mole told him that Visash was not at the palace. Sunraku then asked where he was, and Mole explained that her father had gone to the Vorpal Coliseum, taking with him a Kitsu Akane and her brother Sikru. Let's move inside the Vorpal Coliseum, where Akane is training. Her opponent is a ghostly figure. Sikru cheers her on to do her best, and says she will surely succeed this time. Akane is already out of breath, and Visash watches her closely. The ghostly figure attacks, and Akane is alarmed. She recognizes the attack, the same one used on her before. However, this time she thinks that if she just moves away from the ghostly figure, she can avoid it. To her shock, she still cannot escape, because a dark object wraps around her body. Then the ghostly figure raises his scythe, and Akane seems to know what she is in for. Sikru worries for her, and just as the ghostly figure slashes at her, Sunraku arrives. Sikru shouts because Akane is defeated by the ghostly figure, while Visash notices that Sunraku has arrived. Sunraku is surprised by the grab move the ghostly figure used on Akane. Sikru hears him say that, and greets him. Sunraku adds that Akane's opponent was a good 4 or 5 yards away, yet Akane seemed to be teleported right up to him, so he asks what kind of weird ghoul that is. Mole answers that it is the highest class of spirit, called True Quiet. Sunraku is surprised, since Sikru called True Quiet the highest level spirit. He realized that Akane was doing the same thing he had done back then. The invitation from Rabbituza unique scenario, where Akane must defeat the monsters in that arena. He asks whether the creatures vary from player to player. He also realizes that if Akane is fighting the highest level, it is like the final opponent in that unique scenario, the Aberrant Wood Mage. He was incredibly hard to fight, since physical attacks did not work at all. Meanwhile, Old Man Vash didn't have any problem with the Aberrant Wood Mage. Sikru says it would take someone like his noble father to capture a True Quiet. Sunraku says that now that he recalls his fight with the Wood Mage, he wants another shot at that dried-up old tree. He never really beat it, since he just kept running away. However, he thinks it might be more fun to tackle a new challenge, like the Black Ghoul Akane is fighting. Visash says that will not do, because the ghoul is Akane's quarry. There is no point unless she can defeat it alone, and he would rather Sunraku not interfere if possible. Sunraku is surprised to hear that, and greets Visash with a good evening. Visash asks him what the good word is, and whether he needs anything. Sunraku answers that he has obtained everything Visash asked for, and Mole seconds him. Visash asks if he did not just go to the Barren Dark Ruin a bit ago, then remarks how fast he works. Then Sunraku opens the Vorpal Epic unique scenario, and in his head, he wonders how it relates to unique monsters. Assuming Visash is one of those unique monsters, will he get to fight him sometime? He asks himself. How should he advance the plot to make that happen? While he is thinking, Visash tells him to show what he brought back. Sunraku adds that if he could fight Visash, would it be more like besting him rather than taking his life, like with Katarnit? Could he defeat Visash without killing him? He then remembers his battle with Weathermon. The bonus scenario there was triggered when he made contact with Setsuna of bygone days. Meeting a unique monster does not necessarily mean the relevant scenario will trigger. For that matter, why are they even fighting unique monsters? It is clearly connected to the Age of Divinity, so he wonders whether there are hints in the video he saw. If Visash is a unique, he will fight sometime. Why is he giving them what is basically a battle training scenario? And why does he let his children adventure with them? In fact, it almost feels like Visash is inviting them to fight uniques. At that moment, Akane is once again struck down by the true quiet, which worries Sikru again. Sunraku adds that there are too many factors to figure out the truth about Visash. He accidentally blurts out aloud that he does not have enough info to form a firm conclusion. Visash asks about what, and Sunraku panics. He is about to make an excuse when Akane arrives and asks if that was him. Sunraku greets Akane, who asks if this is their first time meeting in Rabbituza. Then she bombards him with her story. She explains that she is currently doing the invitation from Rabbituza unique scenario, but the monster she is fighting is tough, so she is struggling. It keeps grabbing her even from far away. She asks Sunraku what he thinks, since he already cleared that scenario. How can she get through it? She wants Sunraku to tell her what to do, because he is the expert. Because Akane is talking so much, Sunraku tells her to calm down. When he tells her to sit, she immediately listens, and so does her rabbit partner, Sikru. He says he would definitely like to give her advice, but they need to ask Visash first, and as he says it, he looks at the leader of Rabbituza. Akane immediately looks to Visash with puppy dog eyes. Visash allows Sunraku to offer a few words of advice as the more experienced guide. Akane thanks him happily, while Sunraku is surprised that even NPCs are affected by Akane's aura of light. He then says he is not sure if what he is about to say counts as advice, because it is more his take on Akane's fight. When he fought in that Colosseum, his opponent was the aberrant wood mage. As long as that one held his staff, melee attacks did not work on him at all. That was his gimmick. So he thinks that Dark Ghoul must have some kind of gimmick too. Akane immediately understands and asks if Sunraku thinks there is some trick behind the ghoul's attack that grabs her from a great distance. She says she has tried many times, but has not spotted anything weird. Sunraku answers that the gimmick might be more obvious to an outside observer. Akane is surprised that Sunraku already saw it, but he says he cannot be too sure. He has only seen Akane fight a few times. Even so, he thinks he has a bead on the weird thing that is happening. Visash seems proud of Sunraku's observation, and Akane charges in again to fight True Quiet. The ghoul charges, and according to Sunraku, the cloth attack looks like a fake-out. A fake-out meant to draw Akane's attention. What she should be watching is below, the shadow line extending from True Quiet himself. The moment it touches her, she is teleported into the ghoul's hands. So if she just avoids that shadow, she should be fine. It is pretty simple. Moreover, while that is happening, the ghoul himself is wide open. Akane takes that opportunity to strike, but Sunraku notices something that surprises him. He spots a darker puddle. Meanwhile, Akane tries to slice the ghoul, but she is shocked when it suddenly vanishes. Sunraku realizes the thing he saw was also a shadow, split off from the ghoul, and the real True Quiet emerges from it. Akane can do nothing because she is wide open, and the ghoul cuts her body in half. Sikru worries again, while Sunraku cannot believe the ghoul teleported. He figures out the ghoul can use shadows to teleport, like that stupid wolf bastard he knows. Akane says she understands now that the ghoul can teleport instantly to any place with shadows. That is what she needs to watch out for against True Quiet. Sunraku tells her to watch for when the shadows shrink in size. That means they have detached from the ghoul. Akane answers Roger that. She fights True Quiet again, and she seems to be matching it. Sunraku says that is good, since she is keeping track of the shadows. Akane starts to panic because she is too focused on the ground, and now status ailment attacks are raining down on her. Sunraku says it is not the most pleasant attack pattern and asks what kind of ailment it is. Akane answers that her display says Dark Verdict, plus one more she does not finish naming. Sunraku says that is almost an insta-kill and probably sucks her HP dry very quickly. Then he tells Akane she cannot win if she does not attack. He tells Akane not to worry about dying this time. Keep swinging and figure out when her attacks will land. Akane says she is going in, then calls Sunraku coach. She opens with Dragon Breath, but to her shock, it does nothing. She reports that to Sunraku, who is surprised that even Dragon Breath cannot put a dent on the True Quiet. He lists the ghoul's skills, that it can teleport a player, teleport itself, inflict killer status ailments, and cancel all melee and magical attacks. Is it not completely invulnerable? Akane says the True Quiet is one tough customer, and it is time for her next shot. Sunraku says at least Akane is not discouraged at all. He adds that he is sure Visash will not make the fight easy since this is the final monster. Akane is surprised when Sunraku says it is the final one. Sunraku asks whether Visash did not tell her there are 10 monsters to fight in that scenario, and is the true quiet not the final boss? Akane answers that Visash did tell her, but the ghost she is fighting is only the first one. Sunraku is stunned to hear it, because he cannot believe it is only the first. Visash says Akane is a hell of a lot more advanced than Sunraku was on his first visit. Besides, Akane is fresh off defeating Katarnid, whom he calls Lil Octopus. He cannot give Akane the same conditions he gave Sunraku. Sunraku understands that the difficulty scales with the player's level, and he says he is glad he unlocked that story early. He then asks whether this is one of those things where even if Akane beats the true quiet, she will face at least 9 more monsters at that level, and is Akane still that enthusiastic? She answers of course. It only means she has 9 more fun challenges to take on, so Sunraku thinks that maybe calling her positive is not a strong enough word. He jokes about Akane being the light element and all, but he did not expect she would actually be like this. Because of that, he says he now understands why Seagworm was willing to accept Akane as worthy. Akane then asks why he is bringing up Seagworm now. Akane once again plunged into battle, where she dodged the attack of the true quiet. Sunraku was pleased to see that, and he warned Akane to watch out since another attack was coming her way. Akane quickly leapt back to avoid it, surprising a mole that she was able to dodge, while Seacrew praised Akane's dazzling effort. Akane said she is starting to see the attacks, and that they would have to see if that strategy would work as she pulled items from her inventory. Sunraku noted that no matter how much Akane attacked, she would not be able to damage the true quiet. That was the story of that ghoul so far. However, the conditions Visash had given to Akane were that he did not want her to merely survive long enough, like what he had done with the aberrant Woodmich. Visash wanted Akane to kill the true quiet. That meant if Akane was smart enough to grasp the correct idea, there was a way to accomplish the job. If they were wrong in their reading of it, then it simply meant they had wasted many items. We then learned that half an hour ago, Akane had asked Sunraku if he wanted her to throw healing potions at the true quiet. Was it just like what they had done against Katarnid? Sunraku answered yes, since there was no point in taking a normal approach against guys that could not be damaged. Against Katarnid, it was simply an inversion effect, but the true quiet was clearly a ghoul type. Much like how holy water harms the undead, it is given that in such games, healing zombies or ghosts causes damage. Meanwhile, at present, Akane did just that. She struck the true quiet in the face with healing potions, but it had no effect, and the ghoul still killed her. Akane returned to Sunraku, seemingly angry, saying that his plan did not work. She knew she had hit the target, but the true quiet did not even flinch for a moment. Seacrew said that from what they had seen, the healing potions had no effect, so Sunraku asked if it was no deal. Then he got an idea and said he thought there was still enough of a possibility there. Akane eagerly asked Sunraku if he really thought so. Sunraku replied that they only needed more healing potions, and that he would leave it up to Akane to decide if she wanted to try. Happily, Akane agreed, saying yes, since she had no other bright ideas, so they should buy a massive stockpile of healing potions at the Rabatuza shop. According to Sunraku, they spent a large sum of money on healing potions, and now Akane was hurling them at the true quiet. Her throws did not miss, but the true quiet still pressed forward toward her. Akane remarked that after all those potions, the ghoul still was not stopping. Visash silently observed everything, while a mole asked Sunraku if what Akane was doing was simply throwing healing potions at the true quiet. Sunraku thought about it, then explained that he knew he was thinking like a gamer, but normally, when fighting a mob-level enemy, it was defeated by reducing its preset HP value to 0. Bringing that stat to 0 was the prerequisite for defeating it. His reasoning was that the true quiet did not nullify damage. Instead, its HP was set at a negative value. That meant normal attacks that lowered HP were pointless, or could even make its HP more negative. They would be pushing the HP further away from 0 instead of closer. Thus, they adopted a strategy using healing items and magic to bring the HP back up to 0. If the true quiet did not flinch, it did not look like any damage was being taken, but Sunraku reasoned that was simply the way it was. Judging from what Visash had said, that ghoul was a monster generated by a mixture of negative elements released when lives are lost. Things like death, pain, pestilence, and violence. The true quiet was a being formed from concepts. To someone like that, with no flesh at all, the concept of flinching might not even apply in the first place. So even if nothing seemed to be happening on the surface, the damage was still being calculated internally for them. Now, they had to see if the potions they brought were enough. Throughout all of this, Visash still said nothing. Meanwhile, Akane was down to her last 2 potions, and she insisted that she was certain their strategy was working. She hurled the final 2 potions, adding that she would not give up. Both health potions struck the true quiet, and it finally seemed that something was happening. Visash then remarked that he knew Akane had picked up useful hints along the way, but still, she did well in trusting the process till the very end. Akane was surprised, as were Sunraku, Emul, and Sikru. That was because, at long last, Akane had defeated the true quiet. Visash called her a splendid example of a Vorpal soul for that. Meanwhile, Akane was already celebrating her victory. She reported it to Sunraku and asked Sikru if he had seen it. She barely had enough potions to. Sunraku said he had figured that too much would be enough, and it looked like he was right. Sikru commented that it was truly a mighty feat, however. Emul pointed out that they had spent 300,000 mani on those potions, and Sunraku admitted that they had not exactly reaped the benefits of defeating the true quiet. On top of that, Akane had gained very little experience points from the scenario, and she had not even scored a single piece of swag. Then Akane mentioned that the true quiet had dropped its scythe. Sunraku was stunned to hear that, hardly able to believe it had actually been configured to drop something for Akane. He wondered if it was just her real-life luck. He was filled with envy at Akane's fortune, and he wanted that scythe from the true quiet so badly. On top of that, it had already been frustrating enough having to sit out the battle. Because of this, he asked Visash if he was sure he could not get a chance at that ghoul himself. Visash seemed annoyed by this, asking Sunraku if he was making him repeat himself. He had already told him that it was not the quarry assigned to him. Besides, that ghoul was now a thing of the past. If Sunraku wanted to fight it, he would have to go find one of his own. Sunraku could only say yes in response, clearly embarrassed, though he truly wanted a new weapon. The more he could not obtain things, the more he coveted them. Then Visash told him to stop being so envious. Had Sunraku not said that he had found the things he had been asked to retrieve, and was that not why he had come there? Sunraku replied that he had indeed obtained them, and so he pulled out the Delta devices Visash had requested. Visash took them, saying good, since those were exactly what he had asked for. He then gave Sunraku a serious look, so Sunraku asked him what was up. He then called Sikru, who trembled as he asked him what was on his mind. Visash told Sikru that he needed to step out for a moment, so Sikru would cover for him in the arena. Sikru agreed. Visash then told Akane to try defeating her next opponent on her own. Akane responded with a yes, sir, and once again expressed her thanks to Sunraku for everything. After that, he invited Sunraku and Emul to accompany him to the forge, which left Sunraku wondering. Visash explained that the Delta devices were useless as they were, since they had been left to rot for one hell of a long time. Sunraku thought to himself that it seemed like they needed repairs, much like the magic application unit. Visash added that he thought now was as good a time as any, so Sunraku asked if that was so. In the next scene, we shifted to the forge, where Bilak was surprised to see her father there. Visash greeted Bilak and told her he would need to borrow some of her tools for a few moments. Bilak agreed, so Visash asked Sunraku for some components from monsters he recognized as truly strong, and said he would decide which to use. Sunraku was confused why Visash was asking for parts from strong monsters, as he began searching through his inventory. If that was what Visash wanted, then he had items from the Golden Scorpion and the Atlanticus Lepnorca. Visash called them fascinating material, certainly up to his standards, and said he would use them. Sunraku asked if the quality of the components mattered when repairing Delta devices. Visash replied that those could wait until later, which confused Sunraku. Sikru, shocked, as she exclaimed no way, as if she already knew what her father was planning to do. Visash said that it had been a long time since he had done what he was about to do. Bilak excitedly said she would prepare everything, but Vash told her that he didn't need her help this time. Belak was clearly displeased to hear that. Visash added that instead of helping him, he wanted Belak to watch him in action up close. Then he called Sunraku forward and told him to bring out his moon blades. From what he had seen, Sunraku now had the capacity to make the most of the moon blades. He took Sunraku's moonblade waxing and waning and said he would ascend them even further for him. Visash began working inside the Rabituza forge, and Sunraku waited for him outside. Sunraku clearly could not wait to see the result of what Visash was making. He was getting very impatient because he was curious about what would happen. He said he would just take a quick peek, but as he tried, a mole told him he could not do that. Belak had said they were not allowed to enter the forge because she and Visash needed to focus on their work, so Sunraku should wait outside until they were finished. Sunraku even tried to ask if he and a mole could hang around like before, but Belak ignored him because her mind was on all the techniques she would learn from Visash. Then Sunraku thought about how his two moon blades, waxing and waning, were ascended vorpal choppers modified with quad beetle shells. He had no idea they could be ascended even further. This time, they would be modded with parts from the Golden Scorpion and Atlanticus lepnorca. How could he not be excited about that? Emol told him not to blame her if he got shouted at. Sunraku said it would be fine, and he would just make sure he did not get caught. However, the moment she said that, Belak shoved them right back out. She asked what they were doing. Emol asked Sunraku if he was okay, since he was wincing from the pain. Sunraku was surprised when Belak asked what he was doing, and he asked why she had opened the door. Then he figured out that if Belak was coming out, maybe it was time for him to see his newly ascended weapon. Belak said he was right, and that she would present to Sunraku the final, completed piece of work she and Visash had made. Sunraku was delighted to hear it. Belak then handed Sunraku the BC beacon, a weapon like a small handgun. Sunraku was puzzled by the weapon's name, so Belak explained that she had taken the 3 Delta devices, or whatever one called them, fixed them, and combined them. They had finished that first, so Visash said to give it to Sunraku. Sunraku immediately remembered that he had also asked Belak to repair the 3 Delta devices, and he got mad because he thought she and Visash were done with the moonblades. Belak told him to chill out, because they were putting the finishing touches on his moonblades. It was true precision work, so Sunraku should be quiet and wait. Belak added that she couldn't get enough of her father's forge work, and she did not even have the vocabulary for it yet. That was how amazing it was. Sunraku was annoyed and told Belak to hurry up because he could not wait anymore. Emol reminded him that the reason he came to Rabituza was to repair the Delta devices. Sunraku realized Emol was right and said that whining and continuing to complain would not help. For now, he would see what the BC beacon could do. He asked what exactly it was, whether it was a gun. Was it not a weapon? And how did it work? Belak answered that according to her father, it was a whistle used to call But Hamut. The air went dead silent, because Sunraku froze when he heard that, and Belak asked what was wrong. Sunraku shouted whether the name she had said was Bahamut, because if that was what they were talking about, it was one of the biggest keywords from the Divinity era. He did not know what Bahamut was at all, but would he call it with the BC beacon? Visash said it was not only about using the beacon, which startled Emol, Sunraku, and Belak. Visash explained that in this day and age, one could call Bahamut all day and he would not hear. To use the BC beacon, one needed the proper coordinates. Belak was shocked, while Sunraku asked how. Visash said he would not simply tell Sunraku, but once Sunraku was near the location, the beacon would point to the exact spot, and he was sure of that. Sunraku would have to do the legwork himself. Sunraku was surprised that Visash would not tell him the coordinates, and he wondered whether finding them was part of some kind of trial. But since Bahamut had come up again, he now thought about how the terms Leviathan and Behemoth were related. Both were names of great monsters. Visash added that, more to the point, ain't Sunraku gonna take a look at his new moonblades for him? Sunraku's reaction changed immediately, and as he ran toward the moonblades, Visash said they were infused with parts from 2 creatures Sunraku had defeated, the Golden Scorpion and Atlanticus lepnorca. With that further ascension, the blades were renewed after taking in all the force of those 2 monsters. Sunraku grinned from ear to ear when he saw them, and Visash added that he called them the Whalelore Moonblade Goldsheen and the Whale-Lore Moonblade Netherlight. We learned that the Whale-Lore Moonblade Goldsheen is a blade bearing a crystal imbued with golden moonlight. The Vorpal Bunny magic inside unleashes the moon's true shine when crossed with the cold of the dark underworld. The Whale-Lore Moonblade Netherlight is a blade bearing a crystal imbued with dark spiritual force. The Vorpal Bunny magic inside unleashes the moon's true shine when crossed with a sheen of pure gold. Sunraku said his new moon blades were incredibly cool, and he learned that Gold Sheen, the larger blade, was the one from the Golden Scorpion. It can strike higher-level enemies with a critical hit to give them a crystallization effect. It also gains a rapid boost in durability when the user consumes HP or is exposed to moonlight. Its union gauge fills as you land enough critical attacks with it. Sunraku was thrilled the combo mechanic was still there, and he said he could not wait to use his new moon blades. However, something occurred to him, and he said he already knew the pattern. He immediately checked the stats of his new moon blades, and said he had better not be too weak, stat-wise, to equip them. He needed to check the requirements. According to the required stats, Goldsheen needed 80 strength, 100 dex, 80 tech, and 200 Vorpal Soul. Netherlight needed 100 strength, 80 dex, 80 tech, and 200 Vorpal Soul as well. Sunraku was puzzled by the required stat Vorpal Soul at 200, but it showed that he had the Whale-Lore Moonblade Goldsheen and Netherlight equipped. He was relieved that he did in fact have enough Vorpal Soul after all. It made sense, since if his stats were not sufficient, a warning would have appeared when he held the Moonblades. Visash said he would not make such things for someone with no Vorpal Soul at all. Because of that, Sunraku figured out that Vorpal Soul really exists as a number, one of the hidden stats you see from time to time. He said it looked like the stat could also go down depending on his actions, and it would be awful if he could not use the Moonblades when it counted. Because of that, a mole encouraged him that he would be fine. Sunraku then asked if Netherlight was the Moonblade made from the parts of Atlanticus Lepnorca. It was far smaller than Goldsheen, and we learned that when used on foes of higher level than the user, it gives the user a Dark Force effect. Sunraku was curious about the Dark Force effect and wanted to see how it worked. He asked if it was some kind of buff. He then read in Netherlight's description that the weapon changes form as the user consumes HP and/or MP. Its union gauge fills as you land enough critical attacks with it. Sunraku was delighted because he could debuff enemies with Goldsheen and buff himself with Netherlight. He suddenly wondered about buffing himself and looked down at his body. He realized it would not work because of his contusion, which made all buffs bounce off him. So it was meaningless. He said he would make Lycagon pay, but before he could finish, Vash told him to take a deep breath for him. He wondered if Sunraku really thought he would forget the marks Lycagon had etched into him as he was crafting the Netherlight. For a brief time, there was a way to cancel out the contusion's effect. Sunraku could not believe what he heard, because even the saint could not remove Lycagon's marks from him, yet they could be neutralized. He asked Visash how to do it, but Visash said that before he explained, he needed to talk to Sunraku about scars. First, the scars etched into him and into Akane have different nuances depending on who put them there. For example, the mark Lycagon gave to Sunraku was Lycagon's way of giving his prey a tougher path in life, so it would grow stronger and become a more worthy opponent. That annoyed Sunraku because he thought Lycagon was just toying with him. Visash added that when Sunraku showed enough strength to keep Lycagon's fangs at bay, the mark was changed into a contusion. To Sunraku, Lycagon only made his situation worse, but Visash told him not to be so sure. By changing the mark into a contusion, the curse had been lightened for Sunraku, Visash said. Sunraku still found it hard to believe, so Visash asked why Lycagon would make things harder for him if Lycagon had accepted him as worthy. It seems Sunraku realized the curse had weakened, so he asked if that was why he could now wear equipment for 3 minutes at a time. Visash said the weakening of the curse was why it was possible to remove the contusion by placing another curse right on top of it. Sunraku was confused by that, and Visash said that if he wanted to remove one curse, he needed to layer a meaner curse over it, and he knew someone Sunraku could ask for help. Someone who hates people and hates rabbits just as much. The whole world too, in fact, and he meant the mother of all snakes. Belak was shocked to hear that, and was about to ask her father who he meant, but before she could, Visash said he was referring to the arch-nemesis of all Vorpal bunnies. Her name was Goldhunine the Inexhaustible, and she was one of the 7 colossi. In the next scene, we move to the regular lore seminar of the Library Clan. The professor said that players are currently aware of 5 of the 7 colossi. They are Lycagon the Night Slayer, Weathermon the Tomb Guard, Katarnat of the Abyss, Siegworm the Sky Ruler, and the Orchestra of the Doom Echo. They also have some leads on an existence referred to as the Savage Snake Goddess. That goddess is likely one of the 2 remaining colossi they have not yet firmly identified. Someone said that firm is exactly what they need regarding the Snake Goddess, while a girl wondered why the professor had even mentioned the word snake. She said she thought snakes were something like the natural enemy of Vorpal bunnies in this game. The professor said that was correct, explaining they had observed it thanks to the tour of Rabbituza unique scenario that sends you to that region. That scenario is the most well-known way to access Rabbituza so far. In that scenario, you must kill the Ligonian python that attacks Rabbituza. Someone then asked about Rabbituza, while another girl said you are forced to leave Rabbituza after the python is defeated, so most of the site remains a mystery to them. Another person said they wished they had more solid info to go on, and a boy added that they did not even know where in the game world Rabbituza was. The glasses-wearing girl asked if hadn't Sun Raku told them he entered Rabbituza in a wholly different way from the tour method. A boy said that was right, and that Lycagon was involved. He figured Sun Raku had gained permanent access to Rabbituza because of that. Another girl remarked that Sun Raku was incredibly lucky, while the professor fell into thought. He considered the Vorpal Epic bonus unique scenario Sun Raku had found, a unique scenario accessible through interacting with Vorpal bunnies. The professor wondered if that was related to the Savage Snake Goddess in some way. He wished he knew exactly what that Vorpal Epic unique scenario was, and it looked like an idea had come to him. He suddenly laughed, which puzzled his colleagues. The professor said that if Sun Raku were here, he would tell him that he was right, and as he said that, he stood. Thanks to the keywords Sun Raku had given him, he could hardly stand remaining in that room any longer. One colleague asked what he meant by that. The professor added that if that goddess turned out to be a colossus, then that meant they had identified 6 of the 7 colossi. However, now he had to wonder whether Sun Raku had already discovered the final colossus. The 7th and last colossus, he said, and as he spoke, the scene cut to Visash, the final colossus he was seeking. Then we returned to Belak's forge, where she called for her father, Visash. Visash apologized for taking up Belak's time. He added that it looked like Sun Raku would be leaving on his next trip, so he would go check on Akitsu Akane first. Belak asked Visash if what he had told Sun Raku was really true. Visash answered that he had not told Sun Raku to kill Goldhunine for him, or nothing. The curse was what mattered, since all Sun Raku needed to do was pop over and say hello. Whatever happened after that would be all up to Sun Raku. In the next scene, we moved inside the Rabbituza Palace, where a rabbit closed the door to a room. Inside that room, Sun Raku and a mole were waiting. Sun Raku noted that they were still in the Rabbituza Palace, but in a different room, not Visash's chamber. Was it not fancy? He said, like an old scholar's study. Emol said that was a sharp observation from Sun Raku. That was because his big brother Edward was extremely intelligent. Sun Raku said he thought he had heard that in passing before. It seemed Visash was not the most powerful leader in Rabbituza after all. As he said that, the door opened, and someone thanked Sun Raku for his patience. He also greeted Emol and Sun Raku. He was none other than Edward, Visash's eldest son. Sun Raku thought eldest son suited Edward, since his aura was totally different from the other Vorpal bunnies. Then he said the pleasure was all his, greeting Edward. He asked if Edward was the prime minister. Deep down, Sun Raku knew the top figure in Rabbituza was Visash, of course, but in practice, the one who served as its ruler was his firstborn, the elite-looking gray rabbit sitting before him. The people of Rabbituza called him Edward. He did not look like the kind of guy Sun Raku could cajole into doing whatever he wanted, unlike Belak. Edward said his father had requested that he meet Sun Raku. However, he was deeply involved in a certain operation currently, so he could not devote a great deal of time to this chat. Sun Raku was curious about that operation and said being a head of state was not easy, then thanked Edward for taking the time to speak with him. Sun Raku said they should get straight to the point, and he asked if just Edward was what he should call the eldest son. Edward said that was fine. Sunraku could treat him as casually as Belak usually does. Then Sunraku got to the point. He wanted to join Edward in the battle against Gold Hanine the Inexhaustible. Edward thought it over, then asked whether that meant Visash had already told Sunraku about Gold Hanine. Sunraku said only a little, such as how hostile Gold Hanine was toward Vorpal bunnies. Gold Hanine had dug her way from her lair to Rabbituza, building a complete tunnel for herself. She had then stationed a massive number of pythons throughout that tunnel. A kind of boss snake, a true menace. Those pythons poured out of the tunnel in literally infinite numbers, so the Vorpal bunnies could stand against them, but they could not drive the pythons back at all. Sunraku asked if that was the situation, and Edward silently answered yes. They had once wagered on a much larger scale battle in the past, and during it, they had managed to fight halfway across the tunnel. However, when Gold Hanine sent her own brethren along with her own clone to the front lines, the defenses of the Vorpal bunnies were pushed all the way back to the first third of the tunnel. Those brethren were simply vast in number, and at times, they broke through the defense lines of the Vorpal bunnies. As Sunraku was aware, they had battle-tested adventurers like him who helped fend off the pythons from time to time. Because of that, Sunraku asked himself whether the pythons defeated by players along the tour of Rabbituza route were the brethren that slipped past the Vorpal bunnies' defenses. He had not yet fought one of those brethren. Then he asked about the clone. Edward said perhaps it was better described as the goddess's shed skin. Sunraku was surprised by that, saying that if one was a colossus, then even one's waste matter could apparently attack enemies. Edward said he was unsure if that was how it worked, but yes, it could be seen as matter shed from Gold Hanine. It might be shed skin, but it truly was a clone that acted as the leader of the python hordes. The thorniest problem of all was the poison the clone spread. Sunraku was puzzled, so Edward added that, for Sunraku, that poison would be better described as a curse. Worse, that curse appeared to be contagious. Because of that, infected Vorpal bunnies could not return to Rabbituza at all. They had to meet their maker in the dim darkness of that tunnel. Sunraku and Amol were shocked to hear this, and Sunraku asked if the Vorpal bunnies were being infected by it. Edward said the only way to undo that curse was to defeat the clone, and their comrades who were protecting the lines with their lives were being sent on what amounted to suicide missions at the moment. That was the state of Rabbituza's defensive lines. If Sunraku agreed to join the fight against Gold Hanine, he would need to go to the front line and battle the clone and all the brethren serving it. Sunraku recalled Visash's words that to remove a curse, he would need to layer a meaner curse over it. He also thought that the poison the clone of Gold Hanine was spitting all over the place was probably the meaner curse Visash had referenced. For his part, with Lycagon's contusion, his netherlight was basically on ice. He wondered about that poison and how it affected humans. However, the only curse that could overwrite his contusion was the all-spiteful one from Gold Hanine herself. Edward said that in consideration of their situation and their understanding of Gold Hanine's threat, he would ask Sunraku again if he was willing to join, but before he could finish, Sunraku said there was no need to ponder it. Even if he could not do it, he would try until he could, and he would make it work somehow. That was how adventurers handled things, he said, and he had a real need to see the Shedskin clone. So Edward should count him in on that effort, because he would join Rabbituza's defensive line. Edward was surprised to hear that, then smiled, saying it looked like his father's plan had succeeded once again, and he congratulated Sunraku. Sunraku was startled to hear that, while Edward seemed to realize he had said too much. Then he told Sunraku that it happened to be the case that 1 week from now, they planned to stage a large-scale defensive operation after dark. Given Sunraku's track record with other colossi, he held him in very high esteem indeed. Therefore, he hoped Sunraku would fight bravely alongside the Vorpal bunnies. In the next scene, we move to another place outside the world of Shangri-La Frontier. Inside the room, Rei Saigo was breathing deeply. She was preparing to play SLF again, and once she was ready, she put on her VR headset. Then, the scene shifted to Schloss Schwarzwolf, the extravagant building that served as the home base of the Schwarzwolf clan. 3 members of Wolfgang arrived there: Katsuo, Pencilgon, and Kyogoku. Katsuo was amazed at the headquarters of the Schwarzwolf clan, saying it was massive. Pencil-gon remarked that it was because they were a top-level clan. Kyogoku added that Schwartz-Wolf took the huge piles of cash they built up hunting mobs and funneled it all into this base. For them, it was the headquarters of their sworn enemies. Pencil-gon told her to calm down, because the members of Schwartz-Wolf might hear them. Katsuo said they surely already knew, but here they were, acting like children about to try new type of candy. Pencil-gon answered that they were not there for a brawl or anything, so there was no reason to be anxious at all. Kyogoku seemed surprised, since they were not there to brawl. Katsuo asked if hadn't Schwartz-Wolf want to go over their alliance one more time. Still, the way things were, he saw no peaceful end to this situation. As he was speaking, the door to the headquarters opened. They entered, and Pencil-gon muttered that she doubted Schwartz-Wolf would be rolling out a red carpet for them. As they walked in, members glared at them with hostile eyes. The people they passed whispered among themselves and continued to shoot them sharp glares. Katsuo thought the reception was heavy, while a man asked if they were Wolf Gang, showing them the way to the meeting room. He told them to just follow him. Pencil-gon thanked the man that added that their leader, Saiger 100, was waiting for them. Kyogoku was delighted by the hostile stares from the Schwartz-Wolf members, saying it made her career as a player-killer feel worthwhile. Pencil-gon admitted she could not deny that, while Katsuo groaned and asked if they could please stop lumping him into this clique. Soon they reached the meeting room, where Saiger 100 was waiting with a very serious look on her face. The three sat down across from her, and Pencil-gon greeted her, asking if they would start their discussion. Saiger 100 greeted her back, using her full name, Arthur Pencil-gon, and noted that she seemed very eager about this. Pencil-gon playfully asked if she really looked that eager. One of Saiger 100's underlings spoke up, but Saiger 100 told him she understood what he wanted and asked him to calm down for her. Then she turned her attention back to Wolf Gang, saying it seemed she needed to clear up one issue before addressing the main topic. Pencil-gon asked if this was about Kyogoku, who laughed awkwardly. Kyogoku mocked Saiger 100's members, saying their gear looked like it came from a bargain bin, which only agitated them more. Saiger 100 stated that between the weapons and gear Kyogoku had plundered from her members and the other items they had lost, the damage totaled around 14 million money. Katsuo was shocked at the figure, while Kyogoku just kept laughing. Pencil-gon said in that case, they would return everything for 20 million money. All the lost items just like that. Kyogoku was baffled, asking why they would do that. Saiger 100 asked if she was joking with them. She reminded Pencil-gon that if things escalated, all of Schwartz-Wolf might become involved, so her counteroffer was 16 million. Pencil-gon calmly replied that her offer was no joke, but she was willing to lower it to 19.8 million, and that would be her final offer. If Saiger 100 refused, then they should rebuild their gear from scratch again. Either outcome was perfectly fine with them. The Schwartz-Wolf members were stunned to hear this, arguing that the stuff had belonged to them in the first place. So why should they have to pay such a large sum to Wolf Gang, whom they called a bunch of goddamn petty thieves? Kyogoku told them to listen, saying that in Shangri-La Frontier, player killing was not against the law. The developers fully recognized it as an allowable gameplay style. In other words, she had done nothing wrong, and even asked if they got it. This only enraged the Schwartz-Wolf members more, while Katsuo said maybe Kyogoku really did have a natural talent for player killing, though it made him want to beat her up in a second. Pencil-gon told Kyogoku to lay off for the moment. A woman angrily asked why they had to do the bidding of Wolf Gang, calling them bastards. Saiger 100 replied that this was not something that could be resolved so easily, so they should set it aside for later. Someone remarked that Saiger 100 sure is calm. A companion asked what he meant. The commenter explained that Saiger 100 was not accepting any bait from Wolf Gang. That is a good thing, of course, but it has its negatives. However, before he could finish, his companion said that when the boss starts squeezing, she squeezes hard. Pencil-gon then said that if she understood the day's discussion correctly, she believes their star witness Saiger 0 ought to be included as a participant. Saiger 100 answered that Saiger 0 seemed to be running a little late, but if they were taking attendance, then one of Wolf Gang's members was also missing. Of course, she meant Sunraku. Pencil-gon admitted Saiger 100 was right, saying she had summoned Sunraku, but who could say what Sunraku was doing at the moment? The scene shifted to Sunraku, who had just left Rabatuza and was running frantically. He was being chased by two men, and both he and Demol panicked. One of the pursuers shouted that this must be Sun Raku. The other agreed, saying the guy had removed his bird head, but his player name was still Sun Raku. Sun Raku was irritated, realizing that this pointless bird head cosplay was useless since people just checked player names instead of gear now. Changing headgear no longer disguised him at all. He asked himself if he should use Levin Trigger to escape, but decided against it, since it would only attract more curious onlookers. He then cursed Pencilgon for once again giving him zero advance warning. No way he would miss something like this, since defending Rabbituz's front lines was fun, but the whole Schwartz-Wolf situation was packed with excitement. Emil asked what he wanted her to do. Sun Raku told her to find a good hiding place, and he would pick her up later. If changing equipment no longer worked, he still had one more trick available. Meanwhile, the two men saw Sun Raku run into an alley. One said their comrades were waiting on the other side, so they could surround him there. Another said that their companion wanted to ambush Sun Raku in that alleyway. His companion agreed, saying they had to capture Sun Raku. To their shock, they saw someone leap across the rooftops. At the same time, their other pursuers caught up and asked if Sun Raku had come through here. When they realized he was gone, one yelled at his companion not to just stand there like a dumbass. The man protested that they had not seen anyone. The only other person around was a player jumping on the roof. The first shouted that he was an idiot, because that must have been Sun Raku. Why had he not chased after him? He even asked. The accused man looked taken aback, saying it had not been a man leaping on the roof, but a female avatar. That was none other than Sun Raku, using the gender-inverting chalice he had received as a reward from Katarnit. He called the pursuers morons and thought he was glad he had chosen that item among Katarnit's rewards. He was pretty sure they were the only ones who knew it was possible to switch genders. As he said this, a bird flew overhead and crapped. Sun Raku muttered that now he had to stick to the skies the entire way over so no one could get close enough to check his name. After saying that, he stepped on the bird crap, causing him to slip. Then we returned to the meeting between Schwartz-Wolf and Wolfgang, where Pencilgon said that even if Sun Raku was absent, he was still a talent. For all she knew, he might have found another Colossus already. Saiger 100 agreed, adding that even Pencilgon could not keep Sun Raku on a tight leash. Pencilgon admitted Sun Raku was a free spirit. Wild even. She was about to ask how one could ever collar a man like Sun Raku. But before she could finish, Sun Raku crashed through the meeting room window, slamming his ass into Saiger 100, knocking her onto the table. Meanwhile, Saiger 0 was preparing to enter the meeting room. She muttered that she had hesitated too long and was now late. She had to hurry, or her sister would get angry. But before she could finish speaking, she heard a loud crash from inside and grew worried. She immediately entered, asking what had happened. What she found was Pencilgon sprawled on the floor, knocked down by Sun Raku, while Katso was also floored. Pencilgon muttered that maybe now she really did need to put a leash on Sun Raku. Saiger 0 asked what had happened, seeing the broken window and her sister face down on the table. Katso said that of all the goddamn things Sun Raku could have done, this was the worst possible opening move. Kyogoku, however, burst out laughing, saying that a leash would not be enough. Pencilgon would need a 20-foot-tall electric fence for Sun Raku. Then, the whole room began to rumble. The Schwartz-Wolf members were also stunned by Sun Raku's sudden crash and entrance. Everyone straightened themselves, and Saiger 100 said she had many questions to ask, but she would start with Sun Raku. She asked if he was really Sun Raku, and he bashfully answered that he was. Katso then asked why Sun Raku was just sitting there and trying to start things like everything was normal. Sun Raku did not understand, while Pencilgon asked if he had nothing to say about what just happened. That finally got Sun Raku to speak. He tried to act cute, apologized, and said he had just goofed up, then giggled. He was about to say more, but before he could even start, Katso and Pencilgon punched him at the same time. He went flying a long distance and got angry at the two of them. He almost died after smashing through the glass. Meanwhile, Saiger 0 was trembling. Sun Raku added, asking what would they do if he died. If they killed a player, they would be swarmed by NPC constables, and Katso's fists were no joke either. Katso replied that if delivering justice to Sun Raku earned him his skull mark, that would be worth it. Meanwhile, the Schwartz-Wolf members were confused. One even asked if Sun Raku could change his avatar's sex, saying he had never heard of that. Someone answered no. Then another asked if that was something added in a new update. A woman said she thought it was Sunraku's sub-account, but was not multiple accounts banned in SLF. In the middle of all that, Pencilgon just kept thinking, and after a moment she suddenly asked if that was Sunraku's reward for killing Katarnit. That question made Sunraku and Katsuo stop and quiet their little scuffle. The whole room fell silent, and the only voice was Sunraku's, who said that more or less it was indeed his reward from Katarnit. But deep down, it had been more defeated than killed. Katsuo got annoyed that Sunraku had beaten yet another unique, who teased him that he was still as incapable as ever of finding his own uniques. Katsuo moved as if to punch him again, and Sunraku pleaded to save it until after he had at least healed. Pencilgon said it was also her first time seeing gender inversion or changing. Then she asked the siblings whether they had been told anything at all about Katarnit. Siger Zero said nothing, while Siger 100 answered that it was an internal clan matter, so they should get back on track. She said the same applied not only to Katarnid but even back with Lycagon. She wanted to know why Wolfgang had proceeded without telling them, even though they had signed on for an alliance. Pencilgon and Sunraku looked at each other, and Sunraku said that for both Lycagon and Katarnid, it had been more of an accident than anything. Ray, also known as Siger Zero, had been helping him clear an area, and as they pressed on they bumped into the SF Zoo clan. SF Zoo told them they had discovered the pattern for Lycagon's appearances, so they basically froze Wolfgang out of any alliance. He said they asked how SF Zoo knew something like that, but Lycagon suddenly appeared. Siger 100 was surprised to hear SF Zoo mentioned, and Sunraku added that the clan had been flattened quickly, leaving only him and Ray. If Siger 100 had been in the same situation, would she have simply walked away? Siger 100 asked whether Sunraku had fought Lycagon and beaten her. Sunraku answered that in the end it had only been Lycagon's shadow, but pretty much he and Ray had beaten Lycagon. Someone immediately said he must be cheating, so Sunraku looked toward the speaker. The man added that shadow or not, there was no damn way Lycagon was ever going to be that easy to beat. Sunraku should confess what cheat he had used. He even pressed on. Another Schwarz-Wolf member seconded it, agreeing with the man. He said Sunraku could never defeat Lycagon with his usual half-naked build, so he must have cheated. One of them told them to stop, but a woman said Wolfgang had nothing of value to them. Sunraku laughed at the claim that he could never beat Lycagon. He asked Katsuo if he had heard that. There was no time limit, no damage canceling, and still he would not have a chance, he asked. Mockingly. Also he asked if they wanted to know the killer strategy, and even gave them a pro tip. Avoid Lycagon's attacks, and beat her up until she goes down. He told them they did not know that much, because those were beginner-level fundamentals. As he spoke, the shock was plain on the faces of the Schwarz-Wolf members. Sunraku added that they should keep quiet until Lycagon puts her marking on them too. One of the Schwarz-Wolf men got even angrier and wanted to rush him, but his companion held him back, telling him to chill. Sunraku was pleased with himself, and also told them not to accuse every person they saw of cheating. If that excuse worked, then it would mean the developers were letting cheaters go unpunished. Would that not make a mockery of Shangri-La Frontier, the game they all loved so much? The man who wanted to attack him could not accept the truth of what he was saying. Siger 100 then apologized to Sunraku for the rudeness of her companions. Things were hectic in their clan, she explained. Sunraku accepted that, but inside he realized there really was a power struggle in Schwarz-Wolf between the hardliners and the moderates. He even doubted Pencilgon a lot when she had said Siger 100 was on the moderate side despite everything. Still, seeing how far the hardliners were pushing, the situation might be hotter than he had imagined. While he was thinking that, Siger 100 told him to continue his story. Before he did, he almost felt sorry for Siger 100 as a leader. That had to be such a pain. Then he said that more to the point, it had not been just him and Ray who beat Lycagon's shadow. Another player had joined halfway through, Akane Akitsu. Between her and the NPC she brought, they ended with a 5-member party. Siger 100 asked whether Akane had also activated Lycagon's bonus unique scenario, and Sunraku answered yes. Pencilgon cut in to say Akane had already joined Wolfgang, so there was no more headhunting here. Siger 100 seemed annoyed that Wolfgang had covered all their bases. Sunraku then said that their run-in with Katarnid had been totally by chance. It was the same group who had beaten Lycagon's shadow, plus 2 more people they picked up while tackling an unrelated unique scenario, namely Rust and Mordo. But they got caught in an event that led right into Katarnid's bonus unique scenario, and they were given a strict 1-week time limit. Saiger 100 could hardly believe they had cleared it on the first try with no real preparation, so she said it was very impressive. Pencilgon then tapped the table, signaling something to Sunraku. For her, Sunraku needs to increase his intimidation, which Sunraku quickly understood. A Schwarz-Wolf member said there was something off about this situation, and the person wondered what he meant. Then a man with gear nicer than any other Wolf Gang member was revealed. In response to Saiger 100's praise, Sunraku said they simply had a talented set of party members. Of course, all of them were already part of Wolf Gang, though Ray had not quite joined yet, which made her tremble after hearing it. Saiger 100's expression grew more serious, and Sunraku added that Ray had been a great help to them. She had used Armageddon for them against Lycagon, and she used it again during the Katarnid fight. A man tried to embarrass Sunraku, saying he had only beaten a Colossi because Saiger Zero was there, and it had nothing to do with him. Hyogoku shut him down, saying that if that were true, Schwarz-Wolf would have defeated them long ago. So in the end, the man was the one embarrassed. His buddy told him to calm down again. Meanwhile, Sunraku thought they should make their move here and said Ray had helped a lot. But they should keep in mind that he also had an Armageddon-level move he could pull off alone, even though that was a lie. The Schwarz-Wolf members were shocked to hear it, but the man with the nice-looking gear did not seem convinced. For Katsuo, the Armageddon thing did not make sense, while Sunraku looked quite proud of what he had said. Then Pencilgon said she thought Sunraku had made it very clear that their wild child was totally beyond her control. So now she asked Saiger 100 if they could tackle the day's main topic. After all, Saiger 100 had not assembled this group just to recap what they had been doing. Saiger 100 answered that she had not called them for that reason. So in that case, Schwarz-Wolf would present its demands to Wolf Gang. In a very serious tone, she said she wanted Wolf Gang to hand over everything they had on unique monsters. Pencilgon replied with a smile that they would not do that. The whole room was stunned, and Saiger 100 asked if she could ask why. Pencilgon said first, they were not Schwarz-Wolf's errand boys, and was it not pushing it to ask for free info? A man got angry and said they had already provided items and funding, along with all kinds of other extra help. Sunraku asked since when, and the man added that with the saint they had, and it was not Sunraku who had refused it. Sunraku said things had changed. Meanwhile, Pencilgon mockingly asked the Schwarz-Wolf members whether they really called what they had done help. She was not there for a comedy show. If Schwarz-Wolf had an informational advantage like the library in SF Zoo, then sure their contribution would be help. But if all they had was money, there were plenty of other clans. Then someone stood up, the man with the fancy gear, and he asked Saiger 100 whether it was time to stop dealing with Wolf Gang. At that moment, Saiger 100 and Pencilgon looked at each other. The man added that instead, Saiger 100 should let him handle everything. Katsuo muttered under his breath that it was about time, and the man asked what he had said, but Katsuo replied never mind. For Sunraku, the hook, line, and sinker landed. That man was the sub-leader of Schwarz-Wolf and the chief of the Hardliner Crown. His name is Rebellious. Then we went back a few days earlier, when Pencilgon held the capture eyeball, and said it was the perfect bait to involve the library clan in all this. She would handle negotiations with the old geezer leading them, but they should also prepare for the worst. Sunraku said that was fine and all, but he wanted to clear the air about one thing. Hyogoku was puzzled, and Pencilgon asked what it was. Sunraku said it was about Kyoto-mate's attack on Schwarz-Wolf. Was it not Pencilgon who had ordered all of that? Hyogoku's and Pencilgon's reactions showed Sunraku had caught them, but Pencilgon asked why he thought so. Sunraku said Pencilgon seemed pretty okay with that plan falling apart, and that she had called Hyogoku's player-killing reinforcements too much when they came along, as if she had expected the attack which came before that. Hyogoku laughed, while Pencilgon said that to be honest, she had hoped to unleash that surprise at a more suitable time, but it was too late for that. Katsuo was about to ask something, but Pencilgon spoke first. She said the whole thing had been a setup from start to finish. After all, she had a deal with Saiger 100 behind the scenes. They were helping each other with all of this, so they could cut out the tumor infecting Schwarz-Wolf, Rebellious. In the next scene, Rebellious introduced himself, and told Wolfgang that he was the sub-leader of Schwarz-Wolf. Sunraku asked, "So what?" while Saiger 100 stayed silent. Pencilgon thought that besides being Schwarz-Wolf's sub-leader, Rebellious was also the head of the hardliner faction. He was attempting to exploit Schwarz-Wolf for his own gain, and his ultimate aim was to take over the entire clan if things went his way. Rebellious then said that if it was fine with Saiger 100, he wanted to state his case for a moment. According to Sunraku, Schwarz-Wolf had begun as a clan with the sole goal of defeating Lycagon the Night Slayer. It was formed with Saiger 100 at the center, and as things went, they became one of the top frontline clans out there. Because of that, a certain subset of Schwarz-Wolf members began to yearn for even more. They wanted to maintain their current position and advantages. They wanted to be the ones to defeat the other colossi and to remain at the top. As time passed, the original founding principle of defeating Lycagon started to become a little more than a pretext. It was tricky stuff, and corruption like that could become truly contagious. It could infect the entire body before you knew it, and the source of that infection was Rebellious, which was why he believed Schwarz-Wolf was divided between the Doves and the Hawks. The real disagreement was between Saiger 100's side, the moderates who wanted to focus squarely on defeating Lycagon, and Rebellious's side, the hardliners who wanted to dominate as the top in-game clan. Katso thought this was not a fight against Schwarz-Wolf as a whole, because the clan had an internal struggle. He bets that from Saiger 100's point of view, a sub-leader who put his own aims ahead of her original goals was a thorn in her side. According to Kyogoku, in order to eliminate the pest called Rebellious from Schwarz-Wolf, Saiger 100 had reached out to Pencilgon for a bit of help. Pencilgon figured that of course this worked in her favor, because tearing Schwarz-Wolf apart from the inside would surely weaken them. Even so, they also planned to receive as much sincere repayment from Saiger 100 as possible. That would be delightful, and she felt she could already hear it playing now, a cold, cacophonous symphony. Even though the facial expressions of Wolfgang were calm, each of them wore a devious smile deep inside. At the same time, Saiger 100 shuddered, and Rebellious noticed. Saiger 100 thought Wolfgang could enjoy that if they wished, but they should not let Rebellious pick up on it. She then asked Rebellious if he had something he wanted to say. Rebellious said he did, and that they should allow him to get straight to the point. In his view, for a minor clan with fewer than 10 members, unique monsters were simply far too much of a burden to try to bear. Wolfgang did not react to that statement, while Saiger 100 thought that Rebellious had a kind of charisma that attracted younger people, but men drunk on ambition like him were nothing but a cancer when you're trying to manage a team. They needed to treat that disease at once, but the disease had already buried itself deep into the system. A small topical medication was pointless, and if that was the case, they needed a drug so strong it could destroy the entire body. To eliminate the scourge that was Rebellious, she was not above signing a deal with the devil. Rebellious then said that they, on the other hand, were not like Wolfgang. They had strong equipment, plenty of supply items, and connections to all kinds of important NPCs. He was about to say something about dealing with a small clan like Wolfgang, but he decided to rephrase his statement. As for Wolfgang, who simply lacked firepower, he did not see how leaving things to them would help at all. The Schwarz-Wolf members who supported Rebellious were delighted to hear that. Rebellious then presented his proposal to Wolfgang. If they were willing to divulge their information to him, he would not be reluctant to merge Wolfgang with Schwarz-Wolf. But before he could finish, someone asked if his name was Rebellious. It was Sunraku, and Rebellious looked offended by the question. He reminded him that his name was Rebellious, but then something surprised him. That surprised the other Schwarz-Wolf members as well, while Katso looked embarrassed, and Pencilgon and Kyogoku looked proud. Sunraku had taken out something, a fish head, and put it on. As he did, he apologized and mockingly said he had forgotten he should dress formally for the occasion. Rebellious asked what he was wearing and why he was bringing out such stupid crap. Sunraku then called him Rebellious, taking him aback. He asked exactly what Rebellious meant by firepower. Rebellious looked puzzled by the question. Sunraku explained that despite their apparent lack of firepower, they had defeated unique monsters 3 times already, including Lycagon's shadow. As for Schwarz-Wolf, as far as he had heard, they had fought Lycagon 3 times so far. But if they were so proud of all the firepower they had, then why had they still not defeated Lycagon? He pressed Rebellious for an answer, calling him Rebellious. Rebellious repeated that his name was Rebellious, and that Sunraka's alleged feats were dumb luck and nothing else. He was about to continue, but Sunraku cut him off. Was Rebellious really going to stick to that same old boring song? He asked. If that was the kind of sub-leader Schwarzwolf had, then no wonder every man under him was the way they were. As Sunraka said this, he wobbled around. Katsuo told him to stop flopping about, because it was making him laugh. Rebellious looked ready to explode at the truth Sunraku was speaking, but one of his followers held him back. Sunraku added that he had something else to ask Rebellious. Where did the supposed top clan he was talking about get off, despite not even knowing about the existence of bonus unique scenarios until a little while ago? What exactly were they doing all day and night? Rebellious was furious with Sunraku, but he forced himself not to explode. He even told himself not to let ridiculous clowns like Sunraku set the pace for him. Sunraku, meanwhile, kept up his real talk, saying that Rebellious had strong gear, many item stores, and connections to important NPCs. As a clan, they had all the firepower they could want, so was it not laughable that they had no results to show for it? He needled Rebellious even more by calling him a variety of names such as Borellious and Rebeltarian. Rebellious again said his name was Rebellious, but Sunraka cut him off and asked why he did not just jump from Schwarzwolf to Wolfgang. A wannabe like him could mop the floor for them. He then mentioned that Rebellious kept repeating his name to him, but he kept forgetting it, so he asked again what his name was. That finally made Rebellious snap, and he shouted at Sunraku to stop his goddamn stupid childish antics, and called him a worthless bottom-feeding bastard. Sunraka laughed, saying he had torn off Rebellious's mask, while Katsuo remarked that it had not taken long. Rebellious then said that his name was Revelius, and when he noticed his mistake, he corrected himself. A weak clan like Wolfgang, he said, had no right to screw with them. People like Sunraku could be cut out of their lives and not be missed for a moment. Pencilgon was the only one in Wolfgang who spoke, asking what if they simply cut off the alliance instead. That stunned Rebellious and the other Schwarzwolf members, while the siblings remained quietly reactionless. Rebellious then laughed smugly and asked Pencilgon if she was sure. Abandoning their alliance with Schwarzwolf would be the same as abandoning their connections with a library and the SF-Zoo clan as well. They would be throwing away the benefits they had gained, and hadn't Wolfgang had only joined them because they did not want to lose those benefits. At that moment, the birds flew away, and Rebellious added that Pencilgon should stop making threats she could not back up. Pencilgon noticed the birds taking flight, so she called to Sunraku and told him to remove the fish headgear, because she thought the people they had been waiting for were now here. Sunraka said great, while Rebellious looked confused. Then a man entered the room who drew everyone's attention, and Rebellious asked what was going on. The man said there were guests for Schwarzwolf, but Rebellious told him to save that for later because they were busy. However, things did not go as he wanted, because the guests came in, which shocked him. One said he thought now was the best time, though it seemed he had arrived early. Pencilgon replied that his timing was perfect. The speaker then revealed himself as the professor, saying they would just invite themselves in. He had 3 other people with him, a man with longish hair, a short-haired woman, and a child-looking character. Rebellious was shocked to see them. The man introduced himself as PT Overwork and said he served as the leader of the clan team 10 p.m. The child-looking character said his clan leader was currently out. His leader was on a sort of training journey, so he was just filling in. He introduced himself as Ved and said he was the sub-leader of the SF-Zoo clan. The woman decided there was no point in role-playing and introduced herself as the leader of the Shining Knights of the Holy Shield, and that they may call her Josette. Rebellious asked what the clan leaders were doing there and what was happening. Pencilgon then asked him if it still had not dawned on him. She would simply spell it out for Rebellious. They were abandoning their alliance with Schwarzwolf. In exchange, they would team up with the library, SF-Zoo, Team 10 p.m., and the Shining Knights of the Holy Shield. Together, they would form a new alliance. And depending on how nicely Rebellious asked, they might be convinced to let Schwarzwolf join that club. So what did Rebellious think, whom she called Revilius, who now looked absolutely terrified? Rebellious could not believe what he was seeing, because standing before him were various clan leaders in SLF. There was the professor from the library clan, PT Overwork from Team 10 p.m., Vet the sub-leader of the SF-Zoo clan, and Josette of the Knights of the Holy Shield. Pencilgon reiterated that they were thinking of forming a new alliance with all of those clans, with Wolfgang serving as the leaders, and then asked what Schwarzwolf would do. Katsuo mockingly asked who was trying to wriggle out of an alliance this time. Sunraku said that if Schwarzwolf truly, sincerely bowed down to them, then maybe they could let them join. He even asked Rebellious what he thought of that, deliberately calling him Bellibellius. Hyogoku said she had forgotten his name, so Rebellious angrily reminded her. Siger 100 then said that if the circumstances had changed this much, then now might not be the time to act so stubborn. Rebellious was startled to hear that, and insisted that Schwarzwolf was strong enough that they would have no problem without joining the alliance Wolfgang wanted to create. Then he wondered to himself if Schwarzwolf would be left too isolated because so many clans would be grouping together. That will do nothing but lower their clan's rank. He was getting annoyed, thinking they could not afford to lose prestige. He even tried to calm himself, deciding that Schwarzwolf was top class. He convinced himself that the new alliance would not topple that balance of power at all. Maybe, he thought, it would not be such a bad deal for them. Pencilgon then said she would not force them to join, but if they wanted to join that alliance, they would need to accept several conditions from her. As she spoke, she placed a list of conditions on the table. Rebellious looked utterly shocked once he read those conditions. There were 5 conditions on that paper. First, information possessed by Wolfgang would be released to other clans via the library. Second, Wolfgang would be the leader of the alliance, and newly added clans would provide as much support to Wolfgang as possible. Third, unique monster information obtained by Wolfgang's wild child could be purchased in advance via private auction. Fourth, Wolfgang would retain the right to keep certain unique monster info under wraps. Fifth, the clans in the alliance would acknowledge the possibility that Wolfgang members may complete bonus unique scenarios by themselves. Rebellious could not accept an alliance in which Wolfgang was the star, calling it a joke. Did not every section of that set of conditions give Wolfgang an advantage over everyone else? He even asked. Siger 100 took the paper and read it herself. Meanwhile, Pencilgon said that every clan except Schwarzwolf had accepted those conditions, which Rebellious found hard to believe. To Siger 100, it was true that at a glance Wolfgang seemed to enjoy every advantage, but it turned out the stipulations behind that alliance did not actually have real weight. She explained that in the first condition, releasing Wolfgang's info via the library seemed to benefit the participating clans, but Wolfgang was under no obligation to provide anything to the library. As for the second condition about supporting Wolfgang, the phrase "as much as possible" was key. They could do anything or nothing, because there was no real penalty for failing to support Wolfgang, so who cared? The third condition, that they could obtain Sunraku's information if they paid, clashed with the first condition from the get-go. They were free to interpret that however they wished. Then, the last 2 sections were written just as vaguely. They gave Wolfgang nothing they did not already have, and they did not penalize the other clans at all. Nothing had changed from the previous alliance, so that paper was meaningless. But why make the effort to stipulate conditions that looked as if they benefited Wolfgang at first glance? It was so they could carry out their plan to remove the cancer from Schwarzwolf. At that point, Pencilgon asked what Schwarzwolf chose to do, because she wanted an answer before much longer. Rebellious said why should they even answer, as the conditions were ridiculous. They did not need to accept any of them. Siger 100 said he was right, but before they decided on that matter, she wanted to clarify something, so Sunraku and Pencilgon listened closely. It concerned her clanmate Siger 0 wanting to leave and join Wolfgang. Siger 0 said nothing, while Rebellious remembered they still had to talk that over. He realized this was their boss's scheme. For Schwarzwolf, the presence of the attack holder was beyond valuable to everyone in the clan. If Siger 0 had made up her mind about Wolfgang, they could issue outrageous demands in exchange to shore up their position. For example, they could have Wolfgang give them all the info they have about unique monsters and scenarios. He smirked at the thought, which both Katsuo and Sunraku noticed. Knowing what Rebellious was thinking, Katsuo asked Sunraku if that was it. Sunraku asked whether Rebellious could possibly suck any worse at keeping a poker face. Pencilgon then told Katsuo to listen. She asked if he realized his turn was coming up. Katsuo remembered that his turn was indeed next and signaled to Pencilgon, but asked why him at this point. Sunraku said that after all the riling up he had done, it would be weird if they suddenly played it cool. Pencil-gon said Sunraku was right, so Katsuo should stick to the script. Then Saiger 100 called to Saiger 0 and asked her to state her feelings about leaving one more time. Saiger 0 said she wanted to leave Schwarzwolf and that after leaving, she was considering joining Wolfgang. Saiger 100 replied that if that was the case, she accepted her request to leave the clan. Hearing that shocked the clan members, and Rebellious even asked if she was sure. She said of course, but only under certain conditions. Rebellious grew pleased, expecting Saiger 100 to demand a lot in exchange for letting Saiger 0 go. However, all Saiger 100 wanted in exchange for Saiger 0 was for Wolfgang to pay Schwarzwolf and money for the expenses they had incurred building Saiger 0 up, as well as all the single-use magic scrolls they had used during the battle with Katarnit. Rebellious's eyes went wide at that, while Saiger 100 asked if that was acceptable to Pencil-gon and to Saiger 0. Saiger 0 answered yes, and Pencil-gon said that no one could stop how a person felt, so they would just leave it at that. That stunned Rebellious even more. Pencil-gon added that payment would arrive at a later date, but once they paid the agreed-upon money value, would Saiger 0 officially be able to join Wolfgang? Saiger 100 said yes, and Katsuo remarked how easy that was, while Kyogoku commented that peaceful endings were lame. Rebellious shouted that Saiger 100 could not just agree to that. Saiger 0 was one of the most advanced player builds in all of Shangri-La Frontier. Was Saiger 100 really sure she wanted to drop her like a hot potato and release her in exchange for cash alone? Saiger 100 replied that it was what Saiger 0 wanted, and they could not force people to adhere to any particular playstyle. Rebellious tried to argue, but he had nothing to say. Saiger 100 then said that being the case, she believed their position had taken a pretty big hit. From her standpoint, she saw no problem with accepting the offered conditions and joining the new alliance proposed by Wolfgang. Several of her clan members were shocked. Rebellious could not accept that and declared he was dead set against joining the alliance. He swore that Wolfgang was making complete fools of them. Someone supported him, saying he was right. Pencil-gon was putting them under Wolfgang's jurisdiction. Rebellious said they would now show Wolfgang Schwarzwolf's authority as one of the top clans in the entire game. Then Katsuo spoke. However, he sounded like a robot, telling Rebellious, "If you say so." Sunraku and Pencil-gon felt a mix of fear and shock when they heard him. Katsuo was about to continue, ready to share a good idea, but Sunraku elbowed him. Rebellious looked puzzled as Sunraku whispered to Katsuo, asking why he was phoning it in. He was used to speaking before crowds. Pencil-gon told Katsuo to get it together for her, because this was really important to her. Katsuo explained that his throat was seizing up. Meanwhile, Kyogoku grew annoyed that the conversation was going nowhere. Then, she asked Rebellious why not skip the complicated back-and-forth crap. If Rebellious had a problem with their alliance, then why not try to bend them to his will? Wasn't Schwarzwolf a top clan with firepower, so surely he understood what she meant. Rebellious asked what Kyogoku meant, and Kyogoku said she meant he and Rebellious could fight. Before she could finish, Katsuo said they would stage a group battle. A brief, awkward silence followed, before Rebellious asked if Katsuo had just challenged them. Saiger 100's expression turned more serious, as Katsuo said that they had a disagreement between claims. So for example, Wolfgang and Schwarzwolf could each choose several members from their rosters and have them fight. Each team would represent its clan, and the loser would do whatever the winner demanded. That sort of thing. Rebellious asked if Katsuo wanted to fight, and why they needed to do that. To the professor, it sounded like a rather interesting proposal. Rebellious was surprised to hear the professor speak, and the professor apologized, saying he had not meant to interrupt. But at the very least, that was a much more peaceful solution than being ambushed by a player killer out on the street. Rebellious immediately looked at Kyogoku, who simply grinned at him. Pencil-gon said maybe it was much more peaceful, but she had a suggestion. If they won, Schwarzwolf would join the new alliance under their stipulated conditions. But if Schwarzwolf won, they would release all the information they had, including everything they knew about Uniques. Rebellious was stunned. Saiger 100 said it was not a bad deal, which shocked Rebellious even more. She told him to calm down. They were one of the top clans in the game, so they should show Wolfgang their firepower and, by extension, Schwarzwolf's authority. Did Rebellious not think this was a great chance to do it? Rebellious thought that was true, and he was the sub-leader of Schwarz-Wolf, one of the top clans in the game. He then accepted Wolfgang's challenge. According to Siger 100, the purpose of that meeting was to cut out Rebellious and the other hardliners from Schwarz-Wolf. To do that, the first thing they needed was a lot of witnesses. That was why they needed to stage a setup like this, even if they needed Wolfgang's help. They were just calling it a group battle, but in reality, it would be Rebellious's public execution. Then Siger 100 said the match would take place in 1 week, after dark. 5 selected members from each side would fight, and they would discuss the venue later. Rebellious was full of pride as she said it. With that, the meeting ended, and Wolfgang and the other clan leaders left. Sunraku was thrilled, saying what happened was awesome. He asked his companions if they had seen how pleased Rebellious was with himself, calling him Rinrarairi. Couldn't they have pulled that off better? He even asked. The professor reminded him the man's name was Rebellious. Pencilgon also told Sunraku to keep his voice down a little longer. Katsuo said he thought the situation had already gotten out of hand when Sunraku crashed through the window. Sunraku answered that he had made a pretty big impact in the end. However, according to Katsuo, he had only made himself look untamable. Sunraku realized the battle would be 1 week from now. On the same day, he was scheduled to defend Rabatuza and said it was going to get pretty busy. Before that, though, he wanted to do a few things, like a hidden VR kendo fight. He added that he really had to defeat Old Man Fugaku, which Kyogoku overheard and got an idea. Back to Sunraku. He was fuming with frustration over not being able to beat Fugaku. After they finished what they had to do, he would log out and challenge the kendo master again. Seeing his outburst, Katsuo asked what has gotten into him. Meanwhile, Kyogoku wondered if he had misheard Sunraku saying he needed to beat Old Man Fugaku. The professor said a battle between Schwarz-Wolf and Wolfgang would be very interesting. For PT overwork, he had not expected it, while Josette said she did not care either way. Katsuo then asked Pencilgon what style the 2 new allied clans used. Pencilgon said she would give a brief summary. First was Team 10 PM, led by PT Overwork. They are a frontline clan, where you have to be a working adult to join. Their organizational skills, learned while serving as cogs of society, help them climb the ranks. Because of their jobs, most members play only after 10 in the evening. Next were the Shining Knights of the Holy Shield, led by Josette. They are a group that swore loyalty to Saint Aristella and gathered to protect her. Katsuo was confused when Pencilgon used the word protect. Pencilgon explained that the saint is a pretty in-demand figure in the game. Josette's clan punishes those who try to access the saint in non-kosher ways. She then asked if Katsuo remembered how the saint helped them during the Weathermon battle. Sunraku said that was right, since Pencilgon had poured some kind of mystery holy water or something from the saint onto Weathermon. Pencilgon told him not to shoot his mouth off around Josette. She is so devoted to worshipping the saint that she pretty much worships the saint as a god. As a knight, she earned the title of defense holder, the best defender around. She whispered to Sunraku that even the average hardcore player could not knock a single millimeter off Josette's HP gauge. Sunraku looked bored, but still said wow, since title holders are seriously strong in that game, like Ray 2. Katsuo then asked Sunraku wasn't the saint supposed to be able to undo his marking too. Sunraku said that if he forced his way to Aristella to remove the mark, he might get dragged down into the hostile invader storyline. Pencilgon then mentioned that Schwarz-Wolf was going to give them a connection to avoid that too. Sunraku answered that it is too late now, since with the upgrade to the contusion, he can't remove the mark. He then praised Pencilgon for gathering all those clans. Pencilgon said she had a nice piece of bait, but took it back and said she had simply given them offers they would be happy with. Sunraku was about to ask whether he had really heard her say bait, but before he could finish, Josette glanced at him. He was startled to find her staring at him from very close, so he asked what she wanted. Josette was about to answer, but the professor cut in and asked Sunraku if he could ask about something that had been on his mind lately. He wanted to know what the accessory on Sunraku's wrist was. Sunraku was shocked and had no idea what to say, while PT Overwork said he had never seen it before and asked what it was too. They were all surprised to learn it was an infinite inventory, so the 3 leaders bombarded Sunraku with questions, and so did the sub-leader vet. Katsuo and Pencilgon watched, and said it was funny that Sunraku hated being the center of attention, but did not bother to hide his rare items either. Katsuo said Sunraku could just cover his wrist with accessories. Pencilgon added that Sunraku had only recently discovered he could equip accessories at all. Katsuo asked if Sunraku was really that stupid, and whether Pencilgon was sure he was a gamer. Meanwhile, PT Overwork asked if it was a reward from Weathermon. The professor asked if Sunraku couldn't trade it, since he could not remove it. PT Overwork realized players really do reap great benefits when you defeat a unique monster. Josette then asked if Team 10 PM had switched to pushing the world story forward. PT Overwork said that was true, so if Wolfgang was going to fight a unique, he would appreciate advance warning. Pencilgon said all she could say was that it would depend. Sunraku thought about the world story and said it was different from the game's main plotline. It is a story that affects the world of Shangri-La Frontier itself, and it advances by defeating unique monsters. The story is divided into levels, and they are currently at level 3. The booty they got from Katarnid suggested something would happen once they reached level 4. However, they had not yet handed the Abyssal Tome of Truth to the library, and he wondered whether the library clan knew that. The professor asked PT Overwork how things were going in the new land, since his clan had reached the place a day earlier than the library clan, so he is expecting a lot from them. PT Overwork answered that it was probably common knowledge by now, but all they had was information about a black dragon, and that was about it. Vet suddenly asked if he meant the talking dragon from the net rumors, since he was really curious. Josette said that if the dragon talked, she wondered whether it was related to Seagworm in any way. PT Overwork said it was pretty safe to assume it was related to Seagworm. Members of Team 10 PM had encountered it along with an unaffiliated party they met on the way. Funnily enough, the report he received indicated that Black Dragon saw the Colossus Seagworm as its enemy. Vet was shocked, and PT Overwork added that with all the advanced clans now, it was super chaotic. The professor said that in addition to that, based on eyewitness reports, several dragons were openly hostile to Seagworm. PT Overwork was surprised that it was not only the black one his clanmates encountered. The professor added that, apart from that, according to the latest intel they had, several human subspecies had been found in the new world. While they were talking, Katsuo watched from a distance and said that just listening to them gave Wolfgang new information. Pencilgon said that was the best part of forging an alliance with the top clans. They all knew why they were there, so things got worked out fast. While the other clan leaders continued talking about the life and habits of dragons, Katsuo said that hearing all this made him feel like he could find a unique really soon. Sunraku teased him to stay in his own little world, while Pencilgon said they could flip every law in the universe and Katsuo could still blow it. Annoyed by the two, Katsuo started beating on Sunraku. As it happened, Sunraku asked whether they should really be passing those secrets around in broad daylight. Who knew who might be listening? Then a voice said that was not a concern, and when Sunraku turned, he saw it was Josette. She pointed out that the members of her clan, the Saints' Divine Guard, were keeping the general public away from them. The Divine Guard would not let anyone get within the range of their conversation. So, unless someone was a master lip reader, they would be fine, and of course, anything they did not want to leak would not be discussed there. Katsuo said he wondered what the clanking sound had been, and it made sense now. Sunraku asked if they could really just block off the street like that. He then asked Josette if she had called her clan the Saints' Divine Guard. Wasn't her clan called the Shining Knights of the Holy Shield? Josette explained that the Shining Knights are a group created by in-game NPCs. They serve as a shield for Saint Aristella. Players can join, but it is not a player-made clan. The Saints' Divine Guard started with people from among the Shining Knights who decided to form a clan with the Force's non-NPC members. Katsuo asked if that was like a fan club, while Sunraku said he knew the job was popular, but he had not realized they had a clan too. Josette then noticed something and scolded a rookie for letting formation fall apart because an NPC had slipped into the perimeter. The rookie apologized, saying he assumed NPCs were not part of their mission, but Josette said she did not want to hear his excuses. She asked if the rookie thought he could guard the saint with resolve as half-assed as that. Sunraku was surprised by the tone and said Josette was like night and day. Pencilgon said that was a feature of the Saints' Divine Guard. They are very serious about role-playing. Josette had relaxed inside Schloss Schwarzwolf since it was only them there, but around her other members, she was a full-on knight captain. Meanwhile, Josette told her clan members not to go easy because they thought it was merely training or something. They were to treat it as if they were escorting the triumphant return of Saint Aristella herself. Sunraku asked if Josette was just training new recruits. Katsuo said he was starting to wonder what the saint was like, if so many people worshipped her so fervently. Sunraku said it would be one thing if he did not have a contusion, but at this point he doubted he would cross paths with the saint. Pencilgon told him she would not be so sure. Josette said she was right. After all, she was there because of Sunraku and nobody else. In truth, Saint Aristella had taken a keen interest in Sunraku and apparently wanted to speak with him. Sunraku was startled and asked why. Josette explained that it was the Shining Knight's job to heed Aristella's will. They had been searching for Sunraku across SLF. However, despite some eyewitness reports, they could not find him and had no idea where he came from. It happened at the exact moment Pencilgon suggested forming a new alliance. Because of that, Sunraku got mad at Pencilgon for using him as bait. Josette said Pencilgon had told her that if they took their eyes off Sunraku, he vanishes. If so, they had to seize this chance, or they might not get another. As she said it, Sunraku found himself surrounded by her clanmates. He was irritated at being circled in by the saint's divine guard, so he could not escape. He tried to reason with them, saying he had never said he would not meet the saint. He just had another game he needed to play that day, but then he took it back and said he meant it was late and he was tired. Josette declared that they were the loyal shields of Saint Aristella, and whatever the saint requested, they would make sure she received. She advised Sunraku that their encircling shield was not easily escaped. Annoyance was plain on Sunraku's face. He had a lot to do. Beat Gold Hunine, fight the clan battle, defeat the old kendo guy. Did Josette really expect him to waste any more time on that crap? So he used intertravel. Sunraku vanished, and shock spread across Josette's face. She could not believe Sunraku had just disappeared. She asked if that had been a teleport move and said it had not looked like a teleport animation. If it was a teleport, then Sunraku had to be nearby, so she ordered her Shining Knights to find him. Meanwhile, the professor could not process Sunraku's mention of Gold Hunine. Katsuo giggled and asked whether they should tell the others how Sunraku's bracelet worked. Pencilgon said she thought Josette would lose her mind if they did, though it would be funny. Hyogoku commented that you should prank your friends first before you trick your enemies. In the next scene, we step outside the world of SLF and into real life. Hizutomi, also known as Sunraku, is on his way to school while researching Fugaku Ryuguin. He is stunned to learn that Fugaku's lifetime record is 8,238 wins and 6 losses. He could hardly believe that Fugaku truly existed in the real world. He even reads a report that the Ryuguin dojo floor collapsed under the weight of trophies. When the pedestrian light turns green, he crosses and wonders how he is supposed to fight the secret boss of VR Kendo School Ultimate if that AI is based on a crazy old man like Fugaku Ryuguin. He mentions that yesterday, after logging out of SLF, he tried fighting Fugaku again. Even when he unleashed a flurry of attacks, Fugaku kept dodging. He is furious because Fugaku reads every move he makes. Every strike from every angle fails to reach his opponent. On top of that, Fugaku defeats him without breaking a sweat. He gets hit in the chest, sent flying, smacked on the head several times, and beaten in a dozen other ways. He shouts that he can't beat Fugaku and sees no way to do it. The way Fugaku uses his body and handles his sword is on a whole different dimension. The fastest, the quickest, and the most optimal dual-wield attacks. Every movement looks 50% faster than anything he can manage. And Fugaku is no embellished fictional character, since the game traced a real human being for that AI, which makes it terrifying. He cannot believe people like Fugaku Ryuguin and Sylvia Goldberg actually exist, people who surpass all stat limitations and reach ludicrous territory. He adds that he hopes to find some kind of breakthrough. Then he decides to track down videos of Fugaku's 6 real-life losses. People stare at him as he mutters, and, without him noticing, someone comes up behind to talk to him. It is Rei Saiga, who greets him with a good morning so loudly that he jumps. He greets Saiga back and notes that Saiga is not shy about being loud this early. Saiga apologizes, saying she lost track of her volume because she is nervous. Hizutomi wonders aloud because Saiga had never walked to school from that direction before. He then remembers Elephant Boy saying Saiga is good at judo, an old-school martial art. He looks at his phone, turns to Saiga, and asks if she is into martial arts. Saiga says she is, and that she can break clay tiles and stuff. Sunraku is puzzled about clay tiles and asks what approach Saiga would take to defeat someone incredibly strong. Saiga starts thinking and soon says that, for example, she would study the opponent's moves and try to copy them. Hizutomi is surprised at the idea of copying, and Saiga adds that sometimes it is hard to figure a person out until you see things from their standpoint. That is true in sports too. Moving the same way as the opponent helps you see where they excel and also where they don't. Observing is fine, but she thinks you can learn more by moving your body. Hizutomi agrees, and Saiga added that her program has a big self-defense component. She is not sure whether that applies to Hizutomi, but he can try it. Hizutomi thanks her and wonders how smashing tiles helps with self-defense. Saiga replies that it is no problem and she is happy to help, but asks why Hizutomi brought it up. Hizutomi explains that he recently bought a VR kendo game and cannot beat the AI named Fugaku. The in-game character was traced from a super strong old guy in the sport. He asks whether Saiga knows what he means by traced AI. Saiga is surprised about Fugaku and asks if Hizutomi means Grandpa Fugaku, the old master from the Ryuguin family. Hizutomi jolts and asks if Fugaku is Saiga's grandfather. Saiga says not directly, but the Ryuguin and Saiga families are distantly related, so that is what they call Fugaku Grandpa. Hizutomi is amazed that Fugaku is related to Saiga. She then says she has two older sisters, and the second trains in Ryuguin-style kendo. Hizutomi is even more shocked that Saiga's sister studies Fugaku's style. He also struggles to process the Saiga family being involved with Fugaku, and asks since when were the Saigas a family of lethal fighters, then mutters that it is neat. Rei Saiga adds that she has a cousin in the Ryuguin family about her age who competes in kendo and is amazing. She adds that Hizutomi wouldn't believe how good she is, and people say that cousin is pretty much the best in Western Japan. Saiga notices Hizutomi falling silent as she talks, so she apologizes for rambling about her family and admits she cannot think straight today. Hizutomi says it is fine since he was the one who asked. He adds that Saiga has two siblings while he has a younger sister. He is sure his sister is nothing like Saiga's sisters. He bets her sisters are both good at school and sports like Rei herself. Rei Saiga bashfully says her siblings are not really like that, and neither is she. Still, Hizutomi already met her second oldest sister in SLF as Sunraku. That sister belongs to Schwarz-Wolf, which makes Sunraku twitch. He cannot process that information. When Saiga realizes what she has said, she laughs awkwardly, then panics and babbles that it is not like that. Hizutomi only grows more confused. For Saiga, her real life and SLF are getting mixed up, so her mind feels beyond messed up today. Because of what she said, Hizutomi is acting weird. She panics further, wondering how to write it off as a misunderstanding. Then she suddenly gets an idea. She realizes Mana was right that a single moment of courage will push everything forward, because she does not actually mind if Hizutomi picks up on it. She calls to him in a serious tone, startling him, and says she needs to tell him something important. The truth is, at the meeting inside Schloss Schwarz-Wolf, she was the player named Saiger Zero. Hizutomi is stunned and cannot process it. He freezes for a moment, then asks if Saiga is Rei. His brain is scrambled as he tries to process it. In his head, Saiga is Rei from SLF, and Saiga is Saiger Zero. That means she has known him as Sunraku for a long time. While he struggles to process this, Rei Saiga calls to him. Elephant Boy spots them and shouts, "I cannot believe you." He shoves Hizutomi because he is back to acting friendly with Saiga. Elephant Boy and Saiga are both shocked when Hizutomi suddenly falls. Fast forward to the end of the school day, and we return to the rock roll game shop. Mana Iwamaki laughs at Hizutomi, saying it is about time he learned that Rei Saiga is Saiger Zero. Hizutomi is annoyed that Iwamaki had known all along. She says of course, and that she enjoyed keeping it secret through all the tantalizing near misses. Hizutomi says he feels like a fool. From summer break up to now, he played with Saiga, and it never dawned on him that Saiga was Saiger Zero. Rei really fooled him. Iwamaki says that with reactions like that, Hizutomi would make a great dating sim protagonist. Hizutomi answers that Iwamaki only says that because he has not met Saiga in the game. Saiga projects a completely different aura in SLF. As they speak, both glance to the side. where Saiga is hiding behind a shelf and shivering. Iwamaki says Saiga came by after school ended, but she has been like that since Hizutomi walked in. She calls out to Rei Saiga, tells her to stop shaking, and to join them. Does she not have something she wants to say to Hizutomi? Hizutomi wonders what that is, while Rei says that if Hizutomi is interested or whatever, she wants to play with him in Shangri-La Frontier. Hizutomi is confused because they already play SLF together. Rei panics, saying that is not what she meant, while Mana elbows Hizutomi and says Rei means it in a let's keep it up kind of way. Hizutomi says that is fine, and he is happy to play with Rei Saiga anytime. He even invites her to play that evening, which startles Saiga. She says that is great, but not that soon, so tomorrow instead. Hizutomi says that works too, while Iwamaki gets an idea. For her, Rei cannot commit right this minute. Hizutomi then asks if he can question Saiga more about Fugaku Ryuguin since he is still fishing for clues. Saiga cheerfully agrees, so the two chat, and Iwamaki looks proud of their relationship progress. She is sure Rei Saiga sees this as an incredible accomplishment. She then says she will bring out some bubbly from the vault, and Hizutomi asks where that came from. Meanwhile, in a certain house, a girl is playing VR Kendo School Ultimate. In the background of her room are kendo gear and trophies. We learn that this is the cousin Rei Saiga mentioned, a kendo champion named Fugaku Ryuguin. While playing VR Kendo School Ultimate, the game where her grandfather Fugaku Ryuguin served as the special advisor, Fugaku shouted the word men, one of the scoring strikes in kendo. She cleared the final stage on AI Master difficulty with an A rating. After the end credits finished, when asked if the game should end, she selected yes. Then, she took off her VR headset, seemingly unsatisfied with what she had played. She said that while it might not be bad as a teaching aid, was that really the most a final boss could do? That did not even come close to what her grandfather was like. She then remembered her grandfather once telling her not to live her life the way he had. What she knew was that her grandfather was the greatest swordsman in Japan and in the entire world, the ultimate level people sought to reach. Because of that, she wondered why her grandfather would ever say such a thing to her, of all people. We learned that while her grandmother was going through Fugaku's effects, she gave her a copy of VR Kendo School Ultimate. She said her grandpa really wanted to give it to her for her birthday. According to Kyogoku, she had played the game many times, thinking it might give her insight into what her grandfather meant. However, what could she really learn from a wimpy AI master final boss like that? Her given name, Kyogoku, was composed of the characters for capital and ultimate, an expression meaning no one from any side of the capital could compare with me. So, she asked why would her grandfather give her a game like that, and why did he not want her to follow in his footsteps? Putting VR Kendo School Ultimate aside, she cleared her mind, since she had a match against Schwartz-Wolf in SLF that weekend. The AI Master in VR Kendo School Ultimate was not nearly enough for her. She needed something deeper, something intense enough to truly make her blood boil. Then we moved to Sunraku, who was once again fighting against Fugaku, and as usual, he was still losing. A strike to the head, a strike to the chest, a side swipe to the body, a blow to the chin, and another strike to the head. Frustrated, he rage quit because he could not beat Fugaku, which made him bump into his own gaming chair. He screamed in pain and shouted that he lost again just like before, saying he hated Fugaku Ryuguin. He knew he was only a hidden post-credit bonus, but Fugaku felt like he is on a whole new dimension. The actual last boss seemed like some snot-nosed kid compared to Fugaku. Still, he admitted that he learned something from Rei's suggestion to study and mimic his opponent's moves. Because of that, he realized that Fugaku had mastered two traits: positioning himself to dodge anything by a hair's breadth, and handling his sword in a way that produced the tightest, quickest attacks on the most ideal target. Fugaku truly had the experience and dynamic vision of a monster. That kind of compulsive madness crystallized into unbeatable talent. He grew so frustrated as his losses piled up that he could not focus. It was messing with his head, so he wanted to blow off steam by giving himself practice reps. That was why he decided to try creating his own crystallizing. He logged into SLF, went to the area filled with crystals, and fought against a crystal scorpion, practicing dodging its attacks. He was delighted, saying it was the perfect way to practice just barely dodging attacks. In their own way, crystal scorpions too embodied crystallized madness. Before long, he encountered a whole swarm of them. He admitted it was too much and asked himself if he should jump into his inventory to throw off the scorpions. But then he immediately answered himself that he would not do it, because if he recalled correctly, the devs had already patched out that exploit. In that case, he used Moment Sight and his special status, Levin Hazard. He bounced quickly across the whole area without a single problem, and he proudly thought he was getting better at controlling Levin Hazard. But then again, he realized he could not apply his VR kendo skills here at all, which made him wonder what the point was in doing this. That was when he noticed something about a crystal scorpion, remembering that he could harvest materials from it. With all his motions accelerated now, it would be easy. That was exactly what he did, mining materials at incredible speed. He was so impressed with himself that he decided to call it hypermining. Laughing with joy, he noted that as he predicted, it accelerated the entire mining process. As he continued mining, more scorpions came to attack him, which he dodged, before immediately resuming his mining. The cycle repeated. Evade, then mine again, repeatedly for some time. He was overjoyed, calling himself a human jackhammer as he amassed a small fortune in rare minerals. While he said this, he noticed one scorpion about to attack, so he used Flitfoot to dodge. Then he taunted the scorpion, calling it too slow, boasting that he had more than enough time to react after spotting an incoming strike. Just then, a golden scorpion appeared behind him, ready to attack. He noticed it instantly, recognizing it as a golden scorpion, and said that was exactly why he thought of mining there. Bring it on, he thought, knowing he could keep up easily against a golden scorpion at that moment. Then he realized he had already used his double jump, leaving him helpless in midair. Because of that, the golden scorpion sent him flying, killing him. He woke up in his room, greeted by an annoyed mole who told him he had come back after being beaten up again, no doubt. Sunraku only laughed and told a mole not to be silly. Just like he had said before, no one could take him down that easily. Not a single one. Then he boasted to a mole about the rare minerals he had collected, saying he had picked up at least 20. At that moment, he suddenly wondered why he was happy about that, since he had gone there only to practice dodging strikes. He got annoyed that once he started fighting in the crystal cliff nests, he had been dazzled by the shiny loot, shifting his mission into item harvesting. And truthfully, he admitted, relying on evasive skills alone would not help him beat Fugaku in a game. Weapons worked differently in SLF, he thought, and declared that he was done for the day. More importantly, he admitted that he could not win by dodging all day. He did not need to be as skilled as Fugaku at dodging, but he needed enough sword skill to strike tightly, quickly, and in the most optimal way possible. He turned off his VR gaming chair and thought maybe he should roleplay in a game with a setting closer to Kendo. He said he knew exactly the game that would work. A whole different style perhaps, but worth trying. With only 5 days left until he had to defend Rabbituza and fight for his clan, and with school cutting into his time, he could not afford to waste any more. So he picked up the game Tsujigiri Capriccio Online. He thought Fugaku Ryuguin would just have to be patient, because by then, he would have crafted the perfect strategy against him. In the next scene, we shift into the world of Tsujigiri Capriccio Online, inside a house. 3 men blocked another man from breaking in. However, they were no match, because in a flash the man slashed them all down. He said that was way too easy, and he was pleased because he had reached the save point. He checked his score, which was 5,822, and he realized that NPCs did not give that many points. Because of that, he decided to target other players. He asked himself where the other players were, then noticed one player standing behind him wearing a hat. He told him to stop, then challenging the man, saying he would not take no for an answer. While saying that, he struck at the player in the hat he had spotted, but the hat man parried his attack. He kept attacking the hat man, but all of his strikes were being parried. The hat man mockingly called him a polite young man and told him not to say that he was unaffiliated with any group. He asked if he was just a stray dog, then said it was rare to find children as clueless as him in that game. The challenger laughed and said it was his first login today, but he already understood what kind of game Tsujigiri Capriccio Online was. In this game world, he said, the word morals did not exist in anyone's dictionary. Whether they were NPCs or fellow players, the more people won/down, the higher the score. It was essentially a battle royale set during the closing years of the Japanese shogunate, where you had to slash down anything that moved. As he explained, he kept slashing at his opponent, then added that this was exactly what Sujigiri Capriccio Online was all about. The Hat Man dodged again, while the challenger bragged that he was skilled with a katana. He had already struck down several players before encountering the Hat Man. He said he would keep his streak going, and that the Hat Man's polite and sarcastic talk only marked him as more of a noob compared to him. As he swung, his blade was about to hit the Hat Man's hat, but it was parried again, and the Hat Man said the challenger really was clueless. The way he had introduced himself formally before fighting showed his lack of experience. The challenger was suddenly caught off guard because of that. Then another man appeared and welcomed him to divine punishment. As he said that, he slashed the arrogant challenger. The challenger's body fell to the ground, and the newcomer was startled when he realized he had intruded on an ongoing fight. He apologized to the Hat Man for killing his opponent, saying that the challenger was there when he logged in. He hoped he had not stolen points from the Hat Man. That man turned out to be Sun Raku, of the Shinsengumi Troop No. 9. The Hat Man removed his hat and told Sun Raku that the one he had killed was boasting about killing weaklings and surviving the game for half an hour or so. He was sure that his score and all his possessions were trash. Sun Raku said the Hat Man talked like he was different, so the Hat Man asked if Sun Raku wanted him to prove it. Soon more players appeared, some moving up behind Sun Raku, which he noticed. Another player appeared next to the Hat Man, saying if Sun Raku was dealing out divine punishment, he should not waste it on that arrogant fool. He said Sun Raku should have given it to him instead, calling him Shinsengumi Samurai. That was when Sun Raku realized the Hat Man was one of the pro-Imperial Samurai. Sun Raku knew that his absence from the game had made him rusty, but if he lost to randos like these in front of him, there was no way he could ever defeat Old Man Fugaku. So he challenged the men to come at him. He would make sure they were punished thoroughly, because he needed to polish back up his skills in the game. However, if they preferred to give up and commit seppuku, he could help them end their assignment if they like. We learned that committing seppuku allowed players to avoid penalties for dying in the game. Sun Raku added that he was here because he wanted to fight high-ranked players. The pro-Imperial Samurai laughed at how big Sun Raku talked, asking if he had not seen it in his player name. The man and his comrades charged at Sun Raku after saying that, adding that since Sun Raku was a member of Troop No. 9, he could not possibly get wimpier than that. Sun Raku knew there was no such thing as morals in this game. PvP was pretty much the entire point of the title. It was made by and for diehard player killers only. Sun Raku added that if you did not come here to throw away your life, then it was better to join a faction. One could serve the Shogun's side, or their Imperial reformist foes. Players here were not nice enough to let strays survive for long. Of course, affiliation gave access to certain bonuses. For example, joining the reformist side granted not only basic sword skills, but also access to pistol weapons. As he said this, one of his opponents drew a pistol, telling him to die, calling him Shinsengumi. But Sun Raku reacted instantly, hurling the pistol user's ally into him to break his movement. At the same time, Sun Raku explained that players like him, who had joined the Shogun's side, gained bonuses applied to all their skills. As he spoke, he slashed the man's pistol, adding that in a fight between two swordsmen, that gave him the advantage over any reformist. The pistol user was shocked by Sun Raku's skill, saying he was too good, and asked if Sun Raku was high up in the rankings or what. Then he noticed something that stunned him. He saw that Sun Raku was dual-wielding. One of the katanas Sun Raku used was the Shidore Yazakura, awarded to the top 15 finishers in the spring event of last year. The other was the Tamaya Hakushaku, the reward for soloing a special boss from the summer event. That was when the man realized Sun Raku was no ordinary top ranker, but someone who had to be way up the list. Sun Raku mockingly asked if he had finally noticed. He told him to face his divine punishment, then gave him a downward slash. The man collapsed against the wall, realizing his opponent was Sun Raku, the player who had disappeared some time ago. Sun Raku admitted it was true, saying he was half retired or maybe 2/3 retired. In the meantime, he had been demoted all the way down to Troop No. 9, though in his prime, he had been commander of Troop No. 2. The man was shocked to hear that, since Troop No. 3 alone was already filled with all kinds of freaks. Sun Raku then asked if the man was ready for execution, and if he had any last words, he should say them. The man said Sunraku should not think of himself as so grand, since he was the weakest of their band. There were many stronger players, and they would hunt Sunraku down before long. Sunraku mockingly praised him for rhyming his last words as he executed him. Then Sunraku said that as an act of mercy, he would take the man's plunderable items to the pawn shop, so the man should buy them back later. From Sunraku we learned that it paid to be an inexcusable monster in this game. That was what Tsujigiri Capriccio, also known as Bakamatsu, was all about after the wild times in Japan's history on which it was based. Sunraku said he had to get his groove back, and that he had laid out enough bait. Soon the reformist samurai would gang up, and he could already hear the heavens calling to him. As Sunraku had predicted, it did not take long before reformist samurai appeared, one of them with a scar face, asking the man Sunraku had slain if this was the place where he had seen the top-ranked Shinsengumi member. The man said he was sure this was where he had seen Sunraku, though he might have left already. Another said this was their chance to seize rare weapons, so they should find Sunraku. He warned them to watch their backs, because Sunraku would punish them. Then the man Sunraku killed noticed something on the rooftop. It was the Shidare Yazakura's sword, or at least its sheath. He pointed it out to his companions, and one of them said Sunraku was about to ambush them. Another said they should not let him escape, so they should surround and kill him. Then suddenly the water drum behind them cracked open, and out came Sunraku. The reformist samurai had not seen him, and Sunraku told them it was time for them to die. In this game, players really could experience battles like nothing else. That was exactly what Sunraku said he was trying to achieve, the kind of divine punishment that could fool even the AI of Fugaku Ryuguin. With those words, he began his assault on the reformists. In the next scene, we return to real life, where Rei was trying to send a text message to Sunraku using voice input. While doing so, her face clearly showed hesitation and nervousness, but she managed to gather enough confidence to proceed. She told Sunraku that she was happy to have played SLF with him the other day and thanked him deeply for it. After sending that message, she was overjoyed and thrilled that she had just exchanged private messages with Hizutomi. While she was still celebrating, a notification suddenly popped up on her phone. Sunraku had replied, also known as Hizutomi, asking if she meant their game earlier. He said it was no problem since he needed to harvest a bunch of stuff anyway, and that his clan leader wanted to talk to him, so the timing worked out well. Rei dropped her phone out of shock from how fast Sunraku had replied, and she froze, not knowing what to do next. On Sunraku's end, he had just received Rei's reply and was completely stunned when he saw it. It was because Rei had said all sorts of random things, unaware that her voice input was still on. Hizutomi quickly realized it was voice input and simply replied with, "See you tonight." Then he mentioned that he had been switching back and forth between Bakamatsu and VR Kendo for the past 5 days. Today, he said, was his day off, and he had no real-life plans at all. He added that it was going to be a busy day since he would be defending Rabbituza that afternoon and participating in the Schwarz-Wolf contest later that night. Still, before all of that, no matter what it took, he wanted to finally conquer the traced AI, Fugaku Ryuguin, so he launched into VR Kendo. As he charged at Fugaku Ryuguin, he asked if it was true that the Ryuguin school's way was to extinguish the flame of the mind and control the river within oneself. Fugaku didn't respond, while Sunraku began attacking, shouting, "Let's go!" According to Sunraku, over the past 5 days, he had been studying Fugaku's stance, steps, and hair's breadth dodging, the same techniques Fugaku was now performing. Using the fastest, shortest, and most precise movements, Fugaku's sword skills always found their mark, and Sunraku said he had been copying all of them. Fugaku blocked Sunraku's strike, and Sunraku knew that as long as he only imitated Fugaku, he would always be an inferior version and could never defeat him that way. However, while copying the AI's movements, he noticed a few things. He figured out that the reason he couldn't track Fugaku's attacks was that Fugaku could pinpoint the tiniest gaps Sunraku left as he moved. He could instantly decide whether to strike that opening or not, and could hit his mark whenever he wanted. What he feared most was Fugaku's sense for finding those gaps, which was unbelievably sharp and accurate. At that moment, Fugaku attacked, and Sunraku added that in other words, whenever Fugaku attacked, the battle was as good as decided. Yet that was exactly why that same trait of Fugaku's could also become his weakness. While saying that, Sunraku parried the Kendo Master's strike, and he was overjoyed because, at last, he had managed to dodge one of Fugaku's attacks. Always seeking the fastest, shortest, most optimal route was something Fugaku Ryuguin would surely do, and that meant Sunraku could predict where Fugaku's sword would go. He might not be able to copy all of Fugaku's moves, but he could imitate the intelligence driving them, and if he got that close, even one jab could reach Fugaku. As he attacked, he mockingly asked if Fugaku hadn't expected him to dodge his opening strike, and said that now, he was exploiting an opening from the old man, a gap he would steamroll through. However, just as he swung his kendo stick, Fugaku narrowly avoided it by a hair, leaving Sunraku shocked. Then he noticed Fugaku's footwork and realized that in an instant, Fugaku had used a subtle shift in his footing to edge away that much. Sunraku had thought Fugaku hadn't expected him to dodge, and now he could only ask himself how he could have been so arrogant. He realized, as Fugaku attacked him again, that the man's battle experience was far beyond his own. No matter what kind of attack he tried, nothing would work. By which he means, talking about kendo anyway. While saying that, he planted his kendo stick into the ground as leverage, bending it slightly, then flung himself upward, saying that from the very start, he had no intention of defeating Fugaku through kendo. Fugaku was taken aback by what Sunraku did as he raised his leg, saying that the key was not kendo but to go low. He then kicked Fugaku's elbow and hooked one of his legs around him. Then he said that maybe Fugaku had built up decades of experience in real life, but against a low-life rule-breaker like him, he was nothing but an amateur. He swung his kendo stick while asking Fugaku Ryuguin if he was right about that. The result was a direct hit from Sunraku that connected cleanly. Afterward, he stood up from his gaming chair, picked up the VR kendo game, kissed it, and placed it on his shelf with his other games, in the section labeled Completed Games. Sunraku was overjoyed, having finally defeated Fugaku Ryuguin. Both of them had landed a simultaneous men-head strike, but the game had decided that Sunraku's blow had come first. At long last, he had defeated old man Fugaku Ryuguin, the greatest swordsman in history. Sunraku shouted in celebration, saying that he was sure his bout rating would be garbage, but who cared, because when it came to this, winning wasn't just everything, it was the only thing. But now, at long last, he could finally play Shangri-La Frontier with no regrets. On top of that, he said he knew exactly how to celebrate, so he opened up his stash of energy drinks. After defeating Fugaku, he was already at peak performance, but he said drinking the energy drink would boost it even more. He was so delighted with his drink that he declared the first riot blood after going cold turkey hit differently. He felt like there was absolutely no chance anyone could beat him. His voice was so loud that his sister downstairs could hear him, as he shouted that he was hydrated, had already gone to the bathroom, and was now in perfect condition. He said the day ahead was going to be long, while his sister, who heard all this, seemed so annoyed. Then Sunraku sat down on his gaming chair, fired up and full of energy, saying that the first thing he needed to do was defend the Vorpal Bunny Kingdom. He warned that the snake better watch out, because he was going to defeat it. He might not understand all that shed skin nonsense, but since he had already beaten Fugaku Ryuguin, he was going to take down the snake too, and make snake wine out of it.